The Joshua Tree. Yes, sir, baby. We all pray at the Joshua Tree now. Holy cow. All hail the Joshua Tree. Holy cow. Let's all bow down to the Joshua Tree. Holy cow. 4 sacks in 41 games. What a great move. Okay. Holy cow. Man, you guys, and rightfully so, you give Howie Roseman the equity he's going to need for signing the Joshua Tree. Holy cow. 4 sacks in 41 games. Great move here. He's a body. Okay? He's a body. And the difference between him and Zach Bond was never given a shot in New Orleans. He was never given that shot. This guy was given a shot in New England and in Kansas City. Can't stay healthy. He's one-dimensional. He can't play the run. Gee, sounds like the other guy you have on your team, and Bryce Huff. Difference is, this guy costs you a bag of Skittles, and the other guy costs you $18 million. So this is okay. This is just a nothing move. I like the C.J. Dillon deal. I like the Dillon deal more than I do this deal. Look, a pinched nerve sucks, man. I got one, and it's still, I can't sleep at night. There's no doubt. It's a nerve injury. I love the player. I think he's a really good football player. I mean, that to me was a really good move. I like that move to help out Saquon Barkley. This thing here, I mean, here's your edge rushers. Okay, here is your edge rushers. Here's your edge rushers. How do you feel comfortable walking in? Well, right now, you're still going to get a guy coming up in the draft. I'm completely in agreement with everyone. It's going to be edge now. Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, Bryce Huff, Joshua Uche. Oh, the Joshua Tree. Those are your edge rushers. How you doing? Helmet on. Hey, man, there's no question. Howie Roseman can't do any wrong right now. No matter what he does. He's not going to do anything wrong with you guys. And every move he makes to Eagle fans is going to be the second coming of Reggie White. Every single move is going to be, this guy's the next Zach Bond. How many Zach Bonds have you ever seen in the NFL? One. Uche. Uche, baby. Let's get that Joshua Tree going. Holy shit. Honest to God, I like the running back that you got from Green Bay. Injuries are an issue. Is he healthy? That's no question. Then again, get this. You said the same shit about Barkley. I'm all right with that old line. Hey, Hoss, Miles Sanders had 1,300 yards. Miles Sanders. This guy had 600, 700 yards rushing in a secondary role when he was behind Aaron Jones up in Green Bay. And maybe Howie, when he got hit in the head with that beer bottle, maybe it rattled him a bit, and he's a little bit shaky on signing guys. You know, he's a little shaky. What happened? Bang. Maybe what he did was when he got hit in the head with the beer bottle, he turned into Steven and Jerry Jones. I don't know. I'm kidding. I mean, you got the right guy at the helm. You're doing the right things. You're crunching numbers right now because you see what your roster looks like. And I completely disagree. Look at how many draft picks you have next year. You're not going to take 1,000 steps backwards, but you already have taken you've taken some pretty big steps backwards, roster-wise. You can't deny that. And what the media and what fans are doing is you're building up secondary guys. Here, let me ask you this. How many people feel comfortable with Sidney Brown taking over for Gardner-Johnson? How many people? How many folks in here think that you're pretty comfortable? We see your response. On Sidney Brown replacing Gardner-Johnson. How many folks are good with that? Feel comfortable with Sidney taking over? No? Anybody? Comfy, okay? I'm hopeful, all right? I don't know. Ask yourself this. Ask yourself this. How come every time Vic had to go to a replacement, it was Tristan McCullum that came off the bench and not Sidney Brown once he was activated? I mean, how come he came off the bench? He was the next guy up. You keep telling me about Keely Ringo, right? How come Isaiah Rodgers was the next guy off the bench? Wasn't Keely Ringo? That's what Vic felt comfortable with. You guys be trying to tell me about Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown, and I'm like, wait, your own defensive coordinator showed you in his actions last year when he went to the bench and he had to, when players got injured, he didn't go to the guys that are in there now. He went to different ball players. If he was so comfortable knowing that they were not going to bring back Isaiah Rodgers, why did they put Keely Ringo in? The defensive coordinator's actions, his actions showed you what they did when they needed a player. Okay? I mean, Keely Ringo was there the entire season. Vic didn't go to him. Why? He went to Isaiah. So when you say all these moves and you're building these Jalen Hurts to take over for Josh Sweat, are you fucking high? That guy's a project. Here, I wrote him down. By the way, I'm not saying that the good coaching, the talent evaluating's not there. Okay? You're creating questions. Nolan Smith hurt right now. Will he be ready for the season? I'm assuming. Jalen Hunt, unproven. Bryce Huff, a free agent turd. Joshua Uche, the Joshua tree. 4 sacks in 41 games. All right. Those are your edge rushers on roster right now. Those are your edge rushers. Once again, Vic Fangio making chicken shit into chicken soup. All right. You give them the equity. They just won the Super Bowl. No question. Okay? Joshua Uche. Yeah, baby. Grade A sign by Howie. I like it. Not really, but okay. But then again, he's not going to cost you anything. It's $1 million. You know what that is? It's league minimum. He's a dude. It won't cost you anything. It's either going to be a nice sign, like it was for Oren Burks, and he's a good role player, or he'll be whacked, like Devin White. Uche! You should start calling him Joshua Penny. I like Uche. Look at this guy. I like Uche in his 4 sacks in 41 ball games. Had 1 year where he had double-digit sacks. What did the Patriots finish that year, I wonder? I don't even know. Yeah, Joshua Coochie. Bro, it's a nothing sign. By the way, a little bit of news, though. You got to love this thing here, boy. I'll tell you one thing the Eagles do love. They love that Georgia culture. They signed Montgomery Van Gorder as a quarterback coach, and he was at Georgia, worked for Kirby Smart. I think he is the former Notre Dame quarterback back in the day for Brian Kelly, and he's on that coaching staff. They love that culture, man, of winning. It's a great place to go and get coaches and players. Alabama? Well, I don't know now with this guy, nobody running that program down there. That thing, get this. You know what? I hate to say this to my boy here, but that Alabama program will be in search of a new head coach by the end of this year. They'll be trying and begging Dabo Swinney to take that job. Okay? They'll be begging him to go in there and take over. You watch. Patriots were 7-8. He had 11.5 sacks. All right. Who was the coordinator? Belichick? Big Bill was in the building. Big Bill left. What happened? This guy turned into a pumpkin. Second-round pick. That's a big pick. That's a quality pick. Again, I don't know. This is not. Hey, always look at the move and the money. You're looking at you're giving the coaches the credit, and that's the right take. Don't give the player the take. He hasn't done shit in 4 years. Give the coaches the take. Hey, can he do something with them? Probably. But I'll tell you what, if Vic doesn't see it, he ain't playing. That guy's not going to play. If we lost the Super Bowl, you'd be outraged at these moves. Correct? Can't do it. You can't go. You have to give them the benefit that they know what they're doing. You know, it's funny. John McMullen this morning said that when Big Sill says he took you did. You lost 5 starters off of a 11-man rotation on your defensive side of the ball. That's a blow. That's half your defense. And you're going to replace them with project players and guys who were hurt all the time and guys who played half the year. And you see potential. You got more potential conversation than you do productivity conversation with the replacements. I hate the word potential. It's code for you haven't done it. Nobody uses the word with Jalen Hurts, potential. Barkley, potential. Mulata, potential. Lane, potential. Nobody. That potential bus is left. They're great players. By the way, Xander will join us at 3:30. 4:30 will be Mark Farzetta, and at 5:30 Eastern, Mark Schlereth, 3-time Super Bowl champion from Fox Sports. He will join us and get his take. We'll talk Jeff Stoutland, we'll talk Eagles, and we will talk NFL. Hit the like button, please. Super chats go to the top. It's not a shitty play. He's just had shitty production. Any way you want to look at it. He's been a non-productive player. 4 sacks in 41 games and 4 starts. That's all you need to know. He's not a 3-down guy. Look how many 3-down guys you have at edge. Bryce Huff's not a 3-down guy. Joshua Uche is not a 3-down guy. We got to find out if Nolan Smith can play 18 ball games yet. Okay? All good. Get this. This guy, Joshua Uche, played for Steve Spagnuolo, right? Spags couldn't do shit with him? No, but Vic will. All right. We shall see. Hey, March 13th, possibilities for Eagle fans are endless. Still on the victory float. I got it. You should be. It's a great accomplishment. Absolutely. There is nothing wrong. We're looking at every single move that Roseman has or hasn't made and give him the benefit. Resume speaks to the results. And I agree with this. That's why you can't kill these guys. I don't think you can kill them. Not at all. There's too much winning, and there's too much postseason winning. Not killing them, but I'm not going overboard with a sign with a guy who has not done anything in 4 years and given the opportunity to. Nothing. I mean, Zach Bond, like I said, New Orleans, for whatever reason, Dennis Allen never gave this guy the opportunity to play linebacker in New Orleans. And Dennis Allen is considered one of the better D coordinators in the NFL. Never gave him a shot. Poor coaching. Okay? Poor coaching. Look at this here. He's better than Bryce Huff, Joshua Uche. Wow, that's a real, wow, what a bar you set. What a bar. Incredible. All right. Here, what do you make of the edge rushers right now? How are you feeling about them here on March 13th? Let's just say this. Add anybody in the draft. Add anybody in the draft. Anybody to this group. Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Bryce Huff, and Joshua Uche. And a draft pick. Pick a guy. How do you feel about your edge guys heading into the season? You're better than yesterday with a guy with 4 sacks in 41 games, says M. Reyes. Once again, dog shit take. Where's the production? How do you feel about your edge? If AJ isn't traded, do you think this will be the last? I'll get into that. By the way, we confirmed it last night. Senior executive, text me. I sent it to Howard Eskin, Angelo Cataldi, Xander Krause, and Joe. The New England Patriots have been in contact with the Eagles for the availability of a trade for A.J. Brown. Facts. That's a fact. That's not a story. Okay? Facts. There is a conversation. Do I believe it to be executed? Doubtful. But it shows you one thing. How he picks the phone up for everything. And he's open to anything. Okay? I don't know any details of a deal. I have no insight to that. That I can't make up. And I'm not going to sit here and make a compensation package up. I can only assume what that would be. The Eagles are not just going to give a Ferrari away. Especially a Ferrari that is so important to how you run your race. That's not going to happen. So, but it proves one point that I've been trying to make to you. Howie picks the phone up for everything. Does he execute it? Not always. But they're listening to New England. You still got time before the draft. Anything can change. An attitude can change. Look at Gardner-Johnson. He puts that Swiftie shirt on and he's gone. I mean, here, this is what I look at your edge rushers here. Nolan, hurt. Jalix, a project, prospect, potential. Bryce Huff, free agent bust. Shit, 5 sacks would be great from him this coming season. Joshua Uche. I don't know. Depth? Sure. Okay. Outside of Nolan Smith, that's very average. But hey, you weren't exceptional at the edge this past year, except for Sweat. All those guys have to replace 40 sacks in the last 5 years from Josh Sweat. I think you're going to be surprised. Josh Sweat produced before Jalen Carter was anybody. He had 11 and a half sacks. You forget that. You think he benefited from Jalen Carter? He was making sacks before Carter. I mean, that's going to be a tough replace. Plus, with the amount of snaps he plays every year. North of 500 snaps. North of 7 sacks every year for the last 6 years. It's going to be a little tough. Okay? So the edge, I don't really think there's a reason to move off of edge rusher down at 32. Here's what I think at 32. I think you're either going to take an edge rusher that you fall in love with, or you're getting out of that. You move up for what? To 15? You're going to try to move up to 15 for what? A guy who resembles the guy at 32? That, to me, they're the same guys after 15. If you're not moving into the top 10, okay, and you're not up there in the top 12, the difference in edge rushers from 15 down to 40, they're the same guy. Why would I move out of that? Get more draft picks. Build up the equity like you are building up for these next 2 years. This draft and next year. Next year's draft, you got a bounty of picks. You know what Howie's doing now? He is doing the same thing. I want to make a comparison here. Remember Danny Ainge, who used to be the general manager of the Boston Celtics? After they won the NBA championship, they absolutely blew. What did they do? They kept building up a treasure chest of draft picks. Before you know it, Brown, Jason Tatum, all these guys, they were just building up a bounty of draft picks. Look at them now. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. And they were building up all these draft picks. That's kind of what the Eagles are doing right now. They're doing basically what the Rams did after the Rams won the Super Bowl. They're just retooling and rebuilding. Actually, if you think about it, the Eagles are rebuilding on one side of the ball. It's not a complete rebuild, but it's clearly a defensive rebuild. How do you not look at it as a rebuild? I mean, everyone's like, the Keely Ringo conversation is hilarious. The D coordinator didn't even go to Keely Ringo. He went to Isaiah Rodgers. He never went to him. And yet you think he's a replacement for Slay. Oh, okay. You got to wait and see what. Hey, look, me too. September's a long way off. However, it really isn't. You got critical decisions to make on how you're going to rebuild your defense. You know, I mean, how do you not look at losing 5 starters as a non-rebuild? What you talking about here? I can see losing 1 or 2. And let's face it, Howie Roseman signed one guy that he wanted. Zach Bond. He signed one guy that he really wanted. Would you move up for Starks, the kid from Georgia? He looks good. Move up? You really think the Eagles are going to draft a safety at 32 or move up to draft the safety at what, 20? No way. If anything, they move up, they're going after an edge rusher or a D tackle or an OT. And if the kid Tyler Warren happens to be in there, maybe they move up to get him. There's only one tight end in the draft that's worth moving up to get, and that's the kid from Penn State. I think the kid from UM's good, and the kid from Bowling Green looks pretty good. But I could probably get them in the second or third round. Look, every time that guy makes a move, it's going to be a gold star move to Eagle fans right now. No matter what the production says. It's going to be a fucking second coming guy. But hey, man, that's the equity that the fans have because you know why? You won a Super Bowl. You're going to be on a victory parade and on the JAKIB float for the next 3 months. Rightfully so. It's not a rip. It's not a rip. Okay? The difference is every season is different. Every year is different. And since 94 in the salary cap, every team that comes back is completely different. You have more turnover this year than probably you had even after 22. Absolutely. Hey, supers go to the top. Please hit the like button. Give me a total on the likes. But by the way, I don't think you're doing one thing wrong. Not one thing wrong. There is no criticism here. You got to balance your cap. You got to make tough. You know what you're doing? You are acting like the Patriots during their Super Bowl run. Got to make tough choices. You got to move off of Richard Seymour. You got to move off of Darrelle Revis. You got to move off of Randy Moss. You've got to move off of players you don't want to lose. That's the price of winning. There's nothing wrong with that. And true, what you have is you have the structure on how you do business. Okay? So the key to this draft for Howie will be Jackson Dart. He's talking about the Ole Miss quarterback. Howie needs Dart to fall to 32, so a quarterback needy team wants the 5th year. If Dart goes early, there's no player worth trading up for. I don't think you could play a game like that, Bob. I think you need to make sure that you have a roster you feel comfortable going on that side of the football going into the start of the season with. Right now, when you look at that Eagle defense, the only thing that's comforting is Jalen Carter, Q, Cooper. That's all I feel good about. The rest, we'll see. Do you understand that this year you have to build continuity, culture, and you also have to build competitive edge? Everything was taken a blowtorch to. The cohesiveness is gone. Those guys didn't start with each other. What you have left. Different starters are in the building now. Completely. Half the roster's different. Half the defensive roster, that's a rebuild. Okay? They took a blowtorch to it. I don't care what John thinks. Losing 5 of 11 starters. I don't know how you sit there and make that sound better. Well, with the proper replacements. It's funny. Like I said, they went to Tristan McCullum when they were looking for a safety. They weren't looking for Sidney Brown. They were looking again at McCullum. And from what I understand from Clint Hurt, the guy who's penciled in right now at starter at safety, is not Sidney Brown. It's Tristan McCullum. Jalix Hunt's penciled in. Okay? Howie's mistake post-17 Super Bowl was extending players who were older and in decline. Hey, Latin Inferno, you let go of guys, or you had to let go of guys that were 25 to 27 years old. What old guy did you let go? Slay? Okay. He just signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Steelers. All right. Eagles signed tight end Harrison Bryant on a 1-year deal worth up to $2 million. Okay? I'm believing, if I'm not mistaken, he's a blocking tight end. Okay? I think he's a blocking TD tight end. But, I'm going to make a point here on where they're going. It's a good question. Who's Harrison Bryant? These are dollar shore deals. These are dollar shopping deals. Hey, get this. Adam Schefter said it. More money's coming off the cap of the Eagles here. They're signing players. They're going to be second and third day guy signings. You're not making any more significant signs when it comes to any type of free agent. Harrison Bryant? Sure. Joshua Uche? Okay. Look, it's the price of being the champ. But hey, let me tell you, and I'm going to say it one more time to you. Half the rosters in the National Football League are undrafted free agents or low-drafted players. Can't pay everybody. That's where the Eagles are. It's okay. Hey, dude, this Uche thing, I'm Switzerland on it. I don't really give a fuck. He's fast. Sure, okay. He ain't productive. There's some Dallas Cowboys type signs. How he's washed. Yeah, all right. How he's washed with 2 Super Bowl wins and 3 appearances in 8 years. Brian, I'm not going there. Okay, I'm not going there. All right. Who? Oh, man. Harrison Bryant. He's the FAU kid. 9 receptions, 86 yards. Go fucking now. Let's effing go. How you doing? Yeah. FAU kid, 86 yards. Who did he play with last year? Hang on here. People are sending me info on the kid here, man. Look at that kid. Played with the Raiders. Yeah, well, you ain't going to get a lot of playing time with that kid from Georgia there. So, I don't know. 9.6 yards game. Look at that. No touchdowns. 9 catches. Another diamond in the rough, right? How he gets the equity. 86 yards. The Joshua tree. Hey, thank God they won the Super Bowl. Or Big Sills would be fucking elbowing this guy in the chin. Okay? Hey, you know how hard it is for me not to fucking goof on these moves? I can't goof on these moves because you won the Super Bowl. Coaching and defensive core kept us top 10. Yeah, okay. You're right. Your defensive core were your 2 25, 26-year-old D linemen too, guy, and Slay. So this guy right here, Gooby, thinks losing Slay and losing Milton Williams and Josh Sweat is going to be an easy replace. Sure. One of the greatest defenses, if not the greatest defense in Eagle history. We got the next guys. Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. And then you turn around and you sign Joshua Uche. Yeah. Hey, man, Joshua Uche and Jahan Dotson. I love them. Great. Bumper words are washed. Smells like a hockey glove. David. Trey Hendrickson? Absolutely not. Why would I go Trey Hendrickson? I need draft picks, dog. I need players over the next 2 years to keep retooling my football team. That's what I need. Here's my boy Pomp. Great signs. Guy with 86 yards. Great sign. Gerard Roseman at his finest. Yeah. This is really Rose McGadden. If we rebuild, just put Ramondo at tight end, and I'm good with it. How you doing? Oh, yeah, by the way, Goddard's still on the team. That's a good one. So, got a long way yet till September 8th. Hang in there with me. That edge rushing core, I look at it, I don't know. I'm sure everyone in Philly loves it. Probably the best edge rushers in history. I look at that and go, some work to do. How many 3-down guys do you have in that group? Nolan Smith? Nolan Smith played well for 7 games. Can he do it for 20? Question. Jalen Hunt, can he play 18 ball games? North of 430 reps. Find that out. Bryce Huff, will he have a comeback? Will this guy have a comeback year? Will this guy be like, don't call it a comeback? Will that be his theme song? LL Cool J, help me out here. And Joshua Uche, 4 sacks in 41 games. All right. Can Vic work his magic here? Maybe. Sills, are you giving the coach the equity in this? Yeah. I saw him recoup some careers and make one guy a generationally wealth for the rest of his entire life in Zach Bond. Yeah. I'll give him the benefit. He deserves it. And the Eagles are testing Eagle fans' patience with some of these moves. You can't call them shitty moves. You know why? Last year, people were saying the same shit. So you don't know. But last year, you had core dudes. You had Milton that you drafted and developed. You had Josh that you drafted and developed. You traded for Slay. Slay wasn't a Bradbury sign off the street. He was a trade that you gave equity to Detroit to bring him in. I like the Dillon sign. I like that sign. I'm good with him. Injuries will be an issue that I have for him. Absolutely. Hey, dog, when you get a pinched nerve like that and I'm telling you, they don't go away. Feels like your arm's broken. That is a serious injury because it's a nerve injury, and it could be something to do with, again, an onslaught of concussions. Okay? Here's something here, Samuel. Great take here. Guys, hit the like button, please. Seals, would you agree if our offense could step up and limit time of possession and could give the defense time to develop? You mean like last year? The defense gave the offense the year off. The Eagle defense last year gave, during the regular season, the Eagle offense the entire year off in the passing game. They were one-dimensional, and they won because their defense was so sensational. Breaking news, Eagles are still the world champs. Congratulations to you, brother. Hey, that was one whale of a team you had. Watch this, Master Chief. That football team a month ago was unbelievable. Too bad you don't have that same team now. But hey, that team a month ago, one of the greatest, if not the greatest team in Eagle history. Absolutely true. Congratulations to you. And I mean that. That's just not the same team today. I had a call this morning, and all's well. Wouldn't blame Vic if he felt he had to have the same procedure. Hey, Chuck, I think Vic Fangio probably takes that as a tremendous opportunity and also a tremendous challenge. I think probably this is Vic Fangio's wheelhouse. Hey, you want to start over? I'll show you who the fuck I am. You want to start over? We're good. I'm good with it. We can do it again. Got to find the right type. Get this. I would say this to you about the Eagles signings. I am learning a lesson about Howie Roseman. Can I tell you? Hey, guys, what was the general manager's name again with the Sacramento Spurs? R.C. Buford? Do you know what his philosophy was when he was building that 5-time NBA championship team? And this is the guy that him and Howie went on this like sabbatical together, and they were talking about how to build teams and how to look at guys. And do you know what I think he learned from that? Because R.C. Buford said something years ago on how he built those Spurs teams. You know what he said? I'm going to look at every player on the planet. But not every player can play in San Antonio. It's about signing the right guy. And I think Howie has that mentality. He looks at everybody from coast to coast, no matter who he is. Then he's got to determine, is he the right guy? That's R.C. Buford's mentality on how he built those title teams. That was the core of that. And I think he's carried that with him in his second stint as general manager. You got Myles Garrett. We got Joshua Uche. Joshua Cucci. You got Laramie Tunsil. We got Kenyon. You got Javon Holland. We got Tristan McCullum. How he's got CTE from that beer bottle he got hit on the parade route. Nah. Hey, Brian, one thing they do have also, you forgot. They got Lombardi, too. Brian, always finish it off with takes like that with, oh, and they have Lombardi. You can't end a conversation without saying, oh, yeah, they got the Lombardi trophy. You cannot. I told you, February 10th, you cannot say anything without putting the words Lombardi trophy. Okay? Washington stepped up. Absolutely. They got a little better. No doubt. Is a little better enough to catch Philly? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you got better. Yes, Washington and the Rams and Detroit are good teams. I say Detroit's got a better roster right now than the Eagles. Turnover in coaches. I don't think it's a gigantic difference. But they got a better roster right now, Detroit. That doesn't win Super Bowls. Okay, that does not. Chicago got better. They get better enough to where you're going to put them in a conversation with Philly, Detroit, the Rams, and Washington? I don't think so. Dude, if we're gonna rank where the Eagles are to everyone else in the NFC, I would do this to you. Eagles are at 10. They're the champs. Rams, I think the Rams are 7.5 and an 8. I think Washington and Detroit are probably right there as well. You still gotta do some dancing to get up there. Plus, You got to win. And you got to win consistently like they do. Let me tell you something that's going to be very beneficial to the Eagles. What do you think is going to be beneficial going into this season and into this offseason for the Eagles? What do you think is going to be beneficial? You know why? They've lived through this. They're not going to get their little hearts broken when they see a teammate of theirs being exited out of the building. This is commonplace. Do you know how tough it is when you're sitting in a place and you're on the cusp of losing Cooper Kupp? That's devastating to your locker room. Somebody you leaned on, a Super Bowl MVP. Oh, we've been through this. You know what they're creating? A next guy up mentality. Let me tell you what the next guy mentality up represents. In case some of you don't know, and you're not putting an equity on that. If you get drafted to Philadelphia right now, okay, and you're a second or third team guy, let me tell you what Moro Jomo was thinking when he saw Milton Williams get that contract in New England. Holy shit, it's my turn. Being patient, working hard, listening to Vic. I don't believe that guy's that much better than me. Fuck, I'm going to be that guy next. It's your chance at the brass ring. I want that. Do you know how many places don't give you that opportunity? 80% of the NFL, they panic and move off of players. Brandon Graham is the absolute poster child for that. I can't tell you how important that is for chemistry in the organization. That if you are next, if you're Jalix Hunt, and you learned all that shit from Josh Sweat, and you just saw Josh Sweat sign a $19 million annual deal, you know what I'm doing? Holy fuck, am I going to work my balls off this offseason to prove the organization made the right gamble on me in the third round to go out and be a fucking star. Places in the league don't offer that opportunity. And you're the world champs. You know what that opportunity means with the Jets? Nothing. Nothing. You know what it means at Philly? Winning. Money. Legacy. That's what you're building. Howie's telling his next group of dudes, it's your time. I don't think they're doing anything wrong. But don't go Google Goggle over these fucking nobodies you're signing. I mean, let me give you the list of nobodies you signed last year. And you signed a shitload of good players. 3 of them. Barkley, Becton, and Bond. And Burks. Will Greer, Devin White, Bryce Huff, Devontae Parker, Matt Hennessy, John Ross, Tyler Hall, PJ Mustapler, whatever, DT. These guys stunk. The thing you're selling, dude, the championship building and having a winning attitude in your organization. And when you're handing the baton to young players, my God, that's player development. That's believing. that you're the next dude. And you're the next great Eagle. I don't think you put a price tag on that. You know, it's a smaller version of it. But when we had Jerome Brown and myself at Miami, and then the next group were Cortez Kennedy and Russell Maryland behind us. And then the next group was Warren Sapp and Vince Wilfork. Those guys were all backups. They were backups to me and Jerome. And when their time came, they were ready. That's what you're doing here. Look at this guy. Living up. Yeah, well, Jerome missed 4 games that year. Completely outplayed him. Whatever, fuckhead. Sills, Howie's cost cuts and playing kids process only works because of the stability with Vic as the DC. This doesn't work. Is the scheme changes because coaches leave, like on the offensive side. Trust in Vic. Absolutely. Remember what Dave Wannstedt said on this program? You know what he said? He said the scheme's not going to fail you. The players will. That was probably the biggest truth statement last year that a 3-time Super Bowl defensive coordinator could possibly have given. Was that Vic's going to do the things needed. Okay? Hey, man, would I like to sit here and take a shit on all this? Can't. Because you have to end everything by doing this. Lombardi Trophy. Three appearances, 8 years, 2 wins. Last 4 years going into 5, 700 win percentage. What the fuck are we talking about? You may not win back-to-back titles, but in the next 5 years, you're going to be competitive for it. Sills, we just signed Harrison Bryant for $2 million tight end Raiders. What do you think? Dallas is definitely gone. Swanky, I don't know who the kid is. He's an FAU kid. I don't even remember him down there. I cover all that stuff down there in South Florida. I don't remember him there. He's a blocking kid from what I understand. I think that tells you exactly what they're going to do this coming season. And why I still would not go to sleep on that A.J. Brown thing. So you get a back who's been averaging around 600 yards a year as a backup for Barkley, right? And you sign a blocking tight end. That doesn't sound like you're going to be upping the passing attempts anytime soon. And you're talking of moving off of Goddard. Does that sound like you're going to be throwing the ball more? I see you switch back to your old anti-Eagle shtick after Bill Colorillo called you out. Who the fuck is that? Oh, the guy who used to pay to be on this station. I got it. And what have I said negative? See this dickhead? What have I said? I said you're doing everything right, you fucking idiot. What in the world have I said that's negative? I talked to this guy wants a reach around because you know why? He's still drunk on the float. Who the fuck is this? And who the fuck is Bill Colorillo? An underpaid guy on the air in Philly making $50,000. Great. On a station that should be classic rock. Holy shit. Wake me up in 10 years if he's still in the business. Hit the like button. Give me a total on the likes. I just wasted 6 seconds of my time talking about Bill Cunnilingus. I mean, hey, I don't know. I don't know what's funnier, Bill Cunnilingus or what is it? Joshua Uche. Yeah. Hey, brother Hannibal. Yeah, Bill's on the Bill's the that 97.5 is like the knockoff Rolex WIP. Always remember that. Joshua Uche. Hey, he's a dude. He might be somebody. You know, I don't know. I really don't. Hey, get this. You see what some of these guys like that dude has to have? Anti-ego. What have I said? I have no problem with anything they've done. Not one problem. Well, not one problem. It's the price of winning. Sileo's anti-ego. What are you talking about? Dude, you got a serious case of syphilis because you can't remember shit. I don't mind that. If you're a good find, a paisan, I'm good with you. Okay? I'm all right. If you want to call it 94 WIP 94 WOP WAP, I'm good. Anything that's Italian reference, I'm in. Let's see what they do with Edge, and let's see what, hey, this is going to be more what Vic's going to do with this collection of dudes. And do I think Vic can make this thing out of chicken shit into chicken soup again? Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do. All right. Xander's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Farzetta's going to join us at 4:30, and Mark Schlereth will join us at 5:30. Hit the like button. Supers go to the top. I appreciate you guys. Yes, the Eagles have a new quarterback coach, kid from Georgia. Good stuff. Hey, anybody from that coaching staff or that roster, I'm good. Montgomery Van Gorda. Looks like he belongs at the Philly Library. Yes, Montgomery, where is the tax books? Yeah, our stiff dude over there, Bill Cunnilingus, will show you where the tax code is. Yeah. Truth, justice, Big Sills way. Can I get a elite dual threat? John Dotson. Of course you can. Welcome to the National Beach. Q, I love it. This guy didn't like the, hey, I'm sorry, honey. You don't like the way I talk? A little harsh on my approach. Is it okay? Yeah? You all right? I know. Big Sills could be a little rough. Okay? I'm not for the faint of heart. I get it. You all right? Everybody? Oh. Yeah. Bill Cunnilingus and Menstrual Mike. That's some show. Hey, hit the like button. Want to throw this at you here. And you tell me. Now, I'm not going to piss on our folks. Only the plants. Okay? Only the plants. From 97.5, easy listening. And hearing guys say, I can't come on your show, Sills, because you're our competition. and we're afraid of you. Okay. Bro, you're not my competition. That Philly sex thing or sports, whatever, that's not my competition. You know whose competition that is? That's not even Philly 500's competition. Okay? I couldn't even tell you whose competition it is. All right? Let me ask you this question. Hit the like button, guys. Supers go to the top. Thank you guys for building us up. Everyone gets a little upset with us. Or no, wait, I take that back. Everyone gets upset with me. Okay? They get upset with me and you. You understand that? Because here's what I do. Listen, here's the difference between me and you. In Xander, born, raised, this guy pisses green. Nothing wrong with that. I look at it, every year is like a chapter in a book. It's a different chapter. And they're trying to tell you a story. One chapter is going to be exceptional. The next chapter, it's like watching The Sopranos. Not every series or episode was great, but the collective group was outstanding. That's what you got here. Hang in there. Sills ain't messing around. Sills in 6 rounds. Shit. You think it'd take me that long to knock them dudes out? I think I knocked them guys out already about, 3 years ago. How you doing? Still Vader. I'll mow you all down. I don't care. Still, stop paying silly dudes any attention. True. If anyone has a stick, it's Brian Pumper. Heck, I can't tell if that guy supports the Eagles or not. Well, if he's here and the amount of supers he throws in and he's supporting this show, let me tell you, man, he supports the Eagles. And I love Brian Pumper, as I do you, Anthony. Sills is Prime Tyson. All those gloves. Yes, sir. Let me ask you a serious question out here about what you're doing here. And again, watch this. You ready? Thank you. I love that Italian flag there too, by the way. I don't. All right. Do you spend too much of your equity and your cap on one side of the ball? Do you have a problem with it? Sills, we just won the fucking Super Bowl doing it. Do I have a bloody nose? I get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, every time I throw a topic out, even in my own head, I got a conversation. I'm talking to you, and I'm also doing this. Wait a minute. Let me check for blood and blows and nosebleeds. Let me check for this. Won a Super Bowl. Right? You spend a shitload of money on one side of the football. Okay? You're all right with that approach. Well, again, Lombardi Trophy. Yeah, I have to do that. And I don't need idiotic M. Reyes to point that out. See, you can't say nothing without bashing, and you're not bashing. I'm not bashing any. I think the Eagles are doing a fabulous job at trying to limit the dam from breaking. Price of being a champ. Who would you rather be right now, Dallas Cowboys or the Eagles? I mean, really. God forbid. You know why? The Cowboys have no culture. The Cowboys have no direction. And the Cowboys have no leadership. The number one problem in Dallas, the face of the franchise, is not Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott. It's the owner. If the face of the franchise is the owner, you got major problems. You can't. The face of the culture with the Jets is Woody Johnson. That's the difference. Howie's the architect. The quarterback's the face of the franchise. Will only work if draft picks on defense hit. That's correct. That's correct. Yes. Absolutely. Jeff McClain. I'd expect the Eagles to continue to shop the bargain rack for depth pieces and potential upside based on various factors, as they did with Joshua Uche, A.J. Dillon. One name to look at is Jack Gibbons. Oh, God dang. Last year you shopped at the dollar store and it worked. Great deals. Turned out to be, you know what you do? Howie shops at a flea market. And occasionally he lands on a Honus Wagner card that has been dressed up something different. Let me see. Like a Jay Johnstone card. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Howie goes to like flea markets, yard sales, and estate sales. And he goes, look at that, a Jay Johnstone. Look at that old 1980s Jay Johnstone. Look at that baseball card. Wait a minute. Is there something under that? Holy shit, there's a Honus Wagner. That's what he does. Sometimes he finds Jay Johnstone, and sometimes he finds Honus Wagner. Sometimes he finds Zach Bond, and then sometimes he finds Devin White. That's why there's such big swings. Okay? But he wins. Watch this. Lombardi Trophy. Great take, Sills. Joshua Uche. I saw everyone going, hey, this guy's got tremendous upside. I mean, the fucking same bullshit that you hear all the time. Upside. Yeah, all right, yeah. You know what the upside is? He's cheap. And it won't kill me if the guy stinks, which is more likely than not. It's a nothing gamble. That if it pays off, dude, the nothing gamble with Zach Bond. That's the ultimate diamond in the rough. That's like Zach Bond was like finding the Hope Diamond in a mud puddle. Yeah, I know. Look at Yale. I heard that about Bond. Yeah, I'm sure that'll repeat itself too, right, Yale? Because you've heard so many of those stories. Are you still beefing with Seth? Who? Seth Joyner was a hell of a football player. As a broadcaster, whatever. Are you in my world now? That guy still lives off of Gang Green. I get it. Broadcaster? We're good. Jay Johnstone was excellent. 99% of the people in it don't know who the fuck Jay Johnstone is, Wayne. So the way we're talking, you would think Uche is the next Reggie White. Oh, I know. Hey, he runs a 4.40. Hey, really? Is he a good football player? What's his last 4 years been again? 41 games and 4 sacks. Hey, but Vic will pull out the very best in him. He probably will, but what is that? The 10 sacks he had with Belichick? Always follow the money. Difference between Cowboys and Eagles? Well, one is significant. They win. Eagles pay early. Absolutely. Get market value. Absolutely. Dallas pays late. It gets taken to the cleaners. Dak Prescott, $90 million cap. You know what else they do? And I said it yesterday, and I want you guys to understand one thing that the Eagles, two things that the Eagles do exceptionally well every year with that general manager. They are patient and disciplined. Patient and disciplined. They are not going to stray off the reservation. And if they do, make me want to make that deal. Look at this. Gardner-Johnson's not old. They didn't want him on the team. I'm sorry. I don't care. Especially if they signed Justin Simmons to an $8 million deal. That'll just tell you they hated the kid. If you sign a free agent at $8 million to play safety, you hated that guy. Even if it's $5 million. You hated him. Okay? Hey, by the way, all kidding aside, John McMullen does a sensational job. Big Seals could take a couple shots here and there. I give John a few. We're good. We're men. Okay? I want Keegan to start at right guard. Probably so do the Eagles. Hey, you know what? Right there's a great example of something. I think Trevor Keegan was underdrafted. I think he's underdrafted. That's my take. He's underdrafted. Because if he were to go, how high do you think a guy who had 30-some-odd starts at Michigan was the captain of the football team, how high do you think he would go this year if he were to be drafted? Second round? The year he came out, it was one of the deepest offensive line drafts in the last 15 years. Willie Montanez. I forgot that guy's name, Yale. That's a better one. Philly 500 has more credibility than Bill and Mike. I mean, yeah, sure. Such a phenomenal show. I listened. It's all right. Hey, you morons still crying about CJ? Next. Don't fall in love with your players. Fall in like. Who cares? It's about making the roster, chemistry, all of that. That's what this comes down to. Right. Hey, watch this. Gardner-Johnson, thank you. Helped win the Super Bowl. Helped us get to another one. I hope you have a great time in Houston. I have a great feeling you're going to have a great time with D'Amico Ryans. Probably going to be a great time for you. What is this, your 18th team in 3 weeks? It's all good. Hey, thank you very much. You can go put all your Taylor Swift shirts on down there and insult everyone down there. It's all good. We love you. Hey, Milton, I love you to death. Honest to God. 26 mil? I don't think so. But hey, I'm sure the Patriots in the next 4 years are going to be a Super Bowl contender with you. That's if you fulfill your deal. Sweat, I hope you need us in blowout. Thank you very much. You were an awesome player for us. Great. See you later. Fuck out of here. You guys fall in love with these guys. Bye. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Care how fucking talented you are. The key to the success of the Eagles is how they manage the cap and the roster. Plain and simple. Faceless names. That's how they look at their defense. Faceless names. Darius Slay to them, at the end of the day, was a 4-year rental. Yeah. Hey, Marcus, I will make a prediction to you. Jalen Hurts will never make the money Josh Allen makes. Ever. He ain't getting north of $65 million. Ever. We'll find out how much you love him. I think the longer Becton's in the building, I think the longer there's a good chance he may be re-signed. We lease our defense. We don't buy. Great call. Great call. Yeah. What you do is you buy your nice car over on offense. And you lease your defense. That's right. Hey, I'm going to lease that thing over there. And I'm talking about a collective group. Not Jalen Carter. One guy don't make a defense. Collective group. Even Lawrence Taylor back in the day. Chip Banks. Harry Carson. Leonard Marshall. Jim Burt. That whole group of players they had. Banks. It was a unit that made that team. Same with Reggie. Jerome. Simmons. Joyner. Hopkins. Waters. Allen. It's the group. Ringless Allen. Whatever. I'll tell you what he is. Rich old man. Sills, I'll make a prediction. Allen will never win a Super Bowl. Ever. Have the Bills ever? Our offense should be able to put up 35 points per game. Yeah. Our defense should only need to make, 3 stops a game? Maybe. What players are untradeable on the Eagles? Hurts, because he fits what they're doing. Right now, Barkley, not for long, though. Another 2 years. After that, I'll get rid of him. Mulata, Carter, Hurts, Barkley, Mulata, Carter. You can't put Q and Cooper in there yet. They played 1 fucking year. Landon, not getting rid of him. Landon's untradeable. Too good, too expensive, too old. So he's just, so you put Lane in there. Now, next year, it could be Q, Cooper, Carter on that defense. It could be. Jordan Mailata is arguably the best player on that team. Young, great, athletic, enormous. He's probably underpaid. Jordan Mailata is a fucking great football player. Him and Carter are just spectacular. I mean, spectacular. And this is the sign of the Eagles. A 7th-round pick and the 9th pick. You can't have any more of a statement about your organization than that. Your 2 best players on your team that you drafted are Mailata and Carter. The 9th pick and a 7th rounder is incredible. You know, Yale goes, Carter's getting better. He is. So is Mailata. Let me ask you something. If you put Jordan Mailata on the open market and you put Jalen Carter on the open market, who would command more teams? I think it's Mailata. You can live without a DT. You can't live without a talented OT. You don't have the O-line, you can't win. Shit, you got to a Super Bowl a couple years ago with an old dude and Javon Hargrave. Micah Parsons not signed. Will deal get done? It's Dallas. You know what Dallas will do? They'll wait until the 23rd hour, not do anything in free agency, blow the kid up, and then sign him and be behind in free agency and then tell people they're close to the Eagles. How many times do you get to lie to somebody before you go, you're lying? The Cowboys have no substance of success. All they do is tell you and flap their gums. That business plan in Dallas versus the business plan in what Howie's doing right now. Look at what he's doing. Do you think Jerry Jones, let me show you the difference. You think Jerry Jones would have blew up that defense? You know what Jerry would have did? He would have signed Sweat. He would have signed Milton Williams. He would have signed Zach Bond. And then you know what he does? He pushes the can down the road. And that's why at the end of the day, you're getting rid of great players in Dallas. Because they don't structure the contracts correctly. They kick the can down the road. And they don't want to pay their bills until they have to. It's like driving around in a car on E all day. You eventually have to put fucking gas in the car. Jerry doesn't want to fill it up, so he's constantly filling his car up. Eagles are going to fill it up once. They're going to go as long as they can. Then they're going to do the right thing. The Eagles do the right thing in how they build their roster. It may not be yearly. They don't fall off the planet like the Rams did. I don't have one problem with what the Eagles are doing so far. They're the champs. Here, let me show you something here. Did Kansas City win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago? 2 different styles. They won it throwing the ball with Mahomes, right? Then they turned around and won a Super Bowl playing defense. That could be this scenario. They won 2 different styles. That may go on here. I don't know. On March 13th, what would you give Howie Roseman? Sills and how he's operating. Hey. I'm not falling in love with these fucking moves that you guys, the tight end. Oh, okay, sure. Joshua. So, Uche? Coochie? I don't know. B+, you extended Barkley. You signed Bond. You're setting up your future and salary for your young players. You've got a shitload of picks in the next 2 years. It's March 13th. B+? Holy shit. I'm shocked. I give him a higher grade than you. Getting rid of Kenny Gainwell. Hey, that was a significant blow. Eagle fans, you know what? You're like a heartbeat. Hey. Yeah, be a little leveler. Be calm like me. Holy shit. Nolan Smith, Alex Hunt, Bryce Huff, Joshua Uche. That's my new favorite name. Joshua Uche. Like Joshua Coochie. Holy shit. Man. Guy runs a 4.3 cells. Oh, okay. How about them 4 sacks in 41 games? Yeah. This guy can't play first and second down. Hey, let me tell you something. If you thought Bryce Huff needed a bag of bricks in his pants to play the edge against the run, this guy needs a cement mixer, okay, to play the edge in the run. Holy cow. John McMullen taking shots at big cells. That's all right. He got it. You know why he's taking shots at big cells? Because he signed his boy, Van McMullen. That's why he got it. And by the way, they listed him at fullback. Let me show you something here before we bring Xander in. Barzett at 4:30 and Mark Schlereth at 5:30. Ask yourself this. Does this tell you a little sign of what they're going to do this year? They listed Van Sumeren or Van Helsing at fullback, not linebacker. They signed a run-blocking tight end just now from the Raiders. They just signed another running back, and this kid Dillon. Are they going to take the third wide receiver out of the offense and run a fullback offense like they do in Baltimore? Looks to me like a little bit more of a commitment to running the ball. Without further ado, the man who is celebrating, Joshua, let me get it right, Uche. And by the way, it's $1 million. You know what that is in NFL world? That's like paying Bill Colorado to be on the air. That's what that is. Without further ado, it is my boy who co-hosts with John McMullen, one of the best shows in Philly. Birds 365, my boy, Big Z. Xander Krause. How you doing?
What's up, Big Cells? How you doing, brother?
It looks like you've been laughing a little bit.
Oh, you got me laughing a little bit today, man. You're a pretty funny dude. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that.
No. All I know is this. Relax, everyone. I think the guy's doing a great job, man. It's the price of being a champ. What'd you think they were going to do? Go out and make all these gigantic moves? They're not going to be strategic? This guy's got a game plan. He's showing you, man. He may have to cut some angles, take a step back to take 10 steps forward. This is what the Cowboys don't do. I don't know why this is so hard.
What do you mean step back? We just signed Joshua Uche.
Xander, you not agree with me, though, that that's a rebuild on that defensive side now.
Hey, I don't agree with you, Sills. A rebuild would be Jalen Carter's gone. A rebuild would be Nolan Smith, Cooper, and Quinion.
5 starters?
Come on.
5 starters?
Who are
gone.
the best? All right, do this exercise for me. The 5 most important defenders on the 2024 Eagles defense.
Okay. Carter, Bond, Sweat, Williams, Slay, Q.
Oh, you had 3 out of 5 are gone. That is BS. That is BS. Slay got beat for more touchdowns last year than Cooper and Quinion combined.
He also was the 5th ranked guy in cover for a safety, according to PFF. let's look at all of it here. I get it. The safety position in a too high safety is always going to be the biggest threats, not the number.
Sileo goes Carter, Bond, and then he lists the 4 guys.
Hey, wait, here it is. Carter,
Bond, and the 4
Sweat,
we lost.
Milton, Slay, Gardner-Johnson, Q, and Cooper.
Man, you got to be kidding me, Sileo. I don't agree at all. Our core is back, and they're getting better.
5 starters. Tell me this on Sidney Brown. How come Vic Fangio, every time they needed a player to go in for Slay,
went to Tristan McCullum.
They went to Tristan McCullum, and they went to him, and then when they needed a corner, they went to Isaiah Rodgers and not Keely Ringo. I mean, tell me that. What I mean, how that they went to Ringo? They didn't even go to Ringo Starr. They went over. They went to. I mean, they went to Isaiah Rodgers.
That's because Isaiah is a perennial backup. Ringo has the potential to be a 1, but he wasn't there yet.
So Vic didn't want to put the potential starter in. He just said, "Hey, I'll wait for you next year, and I'll just put Isaiah."
Yeah. So when Silio's this funny, it's hard to combat him on anything because I'm just chuckling the whole time.
By the way, once again, though, Xander, I think he's doing everything right. I don't think they're doing anything wrong, man.
I mean, look, he might do something wrong. It's hard to criticize him right now because he's been to 3 Super Bowls in 8 years and he's won 2 of them. So, I mean, we can sit here and have a problem with the moves, but at the end of the day, Sills, I say to people recently, at some point, opinions are overrated.
Yeah, completely.
Give me the resume, right? I said that about Jalen Hurts the other day. Someone's like, "Oh, he's not that good." I'm like, "Well, guess what? Your opinion doesn't really mean shit to me because he won the Super Bowl." So the same with Howie right now, right? We might have a problem with some of the moves, or we might have concerns, but at the end of the day, most fans are probably in a phase where we got to trust Howie. By the way, it's March 13th. Like, let's not overreact right now. And I don't think we are, but
no,
I'm just saying there's a lot of people who think like that, and I'm good with that. But if it doesn't work, we can have I'm sure you'll be on their ass. So, but we'll see how it all shakes out.
I want to remind people of this last year. Will Greer, Devin White, Bryce Huff, Devontae Parker, Matt Hennessy, John Ross, Tyler Hall, some dude named PJ who was DT. These were all dudes signed too. I mean, hang in there. Let's see. One of these guys that they sign now, it may land up to be somebody, I don't know.
Point, though. Or they could all be bust and we could still win it all because, you're guys, we're $1 million per signing so far, basically. 1.5. Like, this is baby peanut. This is not what Big Sills is pulling in. This isn't Big Sills contracts. These are like freaking, the baby peanuts of the world. I mean, come on, these are no risk. All right, we're filling out the roster, and they're going to continue to use their draft picks. By the way, they're one of the best drafting football teams in the last 5 years, as their record indicates. So, sit tight, everybody. Sit tight. All right, I think the Birds are in a fine spot right now. And by the way, how many of those the guys on defense will be better next year? Jalen Carter's getting better. Nolan Smith getting better. Jalen Hunt getting better. Cooper getting better. Quinn Young getting better. Zach Bond getting better. Let's go, baby. Come on, Sills.
How about this? Here's your edge rushers. Tell me how you're feeling.
Oh, God.
Nolan Smith, hurt now. Jalen Hunt, prospect. Bryce Huff, fucked up, free agent. Joshua Tree, Uche. 4 sacks in 41 games. How you feeling about your edge? And if you want to add.
He had 11.5 sacks in 22 on 38% of the snaps.
Yeah. Holy shit.
The guy's got upside for a million beans.
Holy cow.
Dude, he's got some upside
He's had 4 starts in 5 years.
Dude, he's got some upside for a million bones.
Okay. The difference between him and Zach Bond, he was given a chance to start and star. Bond was never in New Orleans. Now,
he's not going to be asked to do the same thing as Bond was.
Do I believe that Vic could make chicken shit into chicken soup? Yeah. To what level? I don't know. I mean, he couldn't do shit with Huff and Devin White last year, but he did remarkable things with Burks, Bond, N'Kobe. He did great things with those guys. Okay, I mean, he did. They were great.
He can do it with the greatness of Joshua Uche.
Well, as you said, he's fast. At least that's going for him.
Look at Sir Dickhead. Sir Dick. Someone throw a beer can at Xander. He's out of control and delusional. Yeah, Sir Dick, take a seat. Take a seat. Enjoy the show, guy.
Hey, Sir Mix, remember something. You always have to, when you have a comment like that, you always have to put that with Xander. Lombardi trophy. I told you guys.
No, I'm not the Lombardi winner, but the Eagles are. So I don't really give a shit what Sir Mix has to say. He probably said the same thing last year. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Bryce Huff is a bust. Bryce Huff is now Super Bowl champion. Bryce Huff.
Right. Bryce Huff, a Super Bowl champion who was deactivated.
All right, ready to answer your question. How do you feel about the edge rushers? Incomplete. How's that for an answer for you?
Okay, March 13th. Incomplete. Nice.
Incomplete.
I like it.
Inconclusive.
Okay, if you get a draft pick, any one of them, any one of them, does it make you better at the edge? Now, then again, you weren't special at edge last year and you won it. You were competent and overcompetent. You were better than competent. You were very good at the end of the year.
I will say, I think, and I think you included, have blown up a little bit what Josh Sweat was. Like, good player, solid guy, appreciate what he's been for the team. He had 8 sacks last year. Like, we didn't lose Myles Garrett. 8 sacks. That's not that crazy, Sills.
Okay. Where are you getting that production from? From who do you think is going to give you 8.5 sacks this game?
Joshua Tree. What are you talking about?
No, maybe you still think it's
Bryce McMullen will shine this year, and he will. His injury is gone, and maybe Bryce Huff will be back. Maybe, just maybe, he will be back, or he'll be gone.
Is that a plan or wishful thinking?
That's wishful thinking. Come on. Bryce Huff, that's wishful thinking. Anybody saying it's not is wrong. That right there is the epitome of fandom after a Super Bowl win and thinking that Bryce Huff is going to do anything for this football team. I'm not going to go down that delusional route.
Let me ask you this here. And again, I asked the question, then I go, really? But I'm going to. Do you believe in any way that it's just the way that they spend the money on the offensive side of the ball? I know they've got a great resume the last 10 years, but it just these peaks and valleys that they go through on the defensive side of the ball. It's hit or miss, and they've hit more now on the drafts than this free agent shit.
Yeah.
Does it bother you they spend so much over there and they don't really invest that much money on that side of the ball?
Well, I don't think that's historically accurate for this team, honestly. We've had some great defenses in Philadelphia. We've had most of our best players that we talk about in franchise history are defense. Our guys on the defensive side of the ball. So I think right now that's been the setup. Absolutely. They've kind of fallen in love with the offensive league, if you will, the pass happy and stuff like that. You can talk to anybody. They'll tell you Jeffrey Lurie is enamored by that stuff. He loves that stuff. But I think what's about to change is they've drafted so good that they've made it hard. Like, you're not going to I don't care how much you value offense over defense, you're not going to let Jalen Carter walk out the door. You're not. I don't care how much you value offense. You're not going to let Quinyon and Cooper walk out the door, presumably when those deals come up. So we might see a little bit of a change where it gets back to a little bit more evened out. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So when you talk about, receivers moving on or something, I don't think that's this offseason, but it wouldn't surprise me if you talked about it next offseason or a couple years into the future. There's going to have to be some changes, but they haven't invested in it to this point. It's worked out. They've drafted so well that the plan has essentially worked. They paid everybody on offense, and they got all guys on rookie deals. We're a better unit than the $200 million offense. Think about that. The rookies and the rookie contract guys were a better unit than the $200 million offense. So in order for this formula to work, you're either going to have to nail those draft picks again, and you're going to have to get, which is really hard to do, by the way, get a bunch of rookie or young guys to be better than the offense, or your style of winning this year is going to have to look a little bit different, and the offense is going to have to carry a little bit more weight. That's how I see it.
Oh, I don't want that offense changing. Why would I change the recipe?
It doesn't have to be changing, but they got to be more productive. They got to score more points. Jalen's got to get the ball out. The only thing you can talk about improving in that offensive game is if they worked in the pass a little bit more. They have to be a little bit more versatile and able to do it depending on how much the defense regresses next year. So, and I don't think they'll regress much.
The latest moves don't show that yet. They show more of a running attack.
Yeah, I agree.
With the tight end acquisition and also with the running back. I mean, to me, and if they get Becton back, that's more of a commitment to what they were doing than what they're going to do. And by the way, historically on the Eagles, since the salary cap era, which started in '94, how many great defensive players have they paid since '94? Fletcher, Brandon, who else?
Dawkins.
Since '94, okay, Dawkins. That's 3 in 30 years.
Well, there's got to be more than that. I mean, there's the corners, there's Lito, there's Asante Samuel, there's all sorts of. I mean, come on, there's got to be some more defenders than that. I mean, I don't have them off the top of my head right this very second, but Brandon Vaughn, Malcolm Jenkins, we paid good money. How about Trent Cole? How about Jeremiah Trotter? I mean, come on, that's some good ones. Okay. You mentioned Fletcher Cox already.
How many guys did you draft? Most of those guys were free agents that you went and got or trades, like Malcolm Jenkins.
That's true. B-Dawk.
Now, most Trotter, of your great history Cox, of defensive players.
Dawkins, Trotter, Graham.
Okay.
Fletcher Cox, we mentioned.
Yep.
And then you got some upcoming in the pipeline now. But remember, I mean, Cox is
look at 30 years with like less than a
half played like 10 years.
No,
12
years, I'm not. I'm just saying the majority of your history is pre-'94 with great defensive football players. It's been a collection of a group of guys like that 17 team was mercenaries. Same as 22. There wasn't a core group of guys in that 22 Super Bowl. Same with the 17 team. And the mistake that Howie made then was in 18, remember, he gave them all money.
Where I think you're right is like if you look at the top, if you look at like the best Eagles defenders in history, where I think you're right is most of those guys will probably predate 94. I mean, you're talking about Bednarik, obviously, way back then, Reggie White, Eric Allen, Seth Joyner, Bill Berge, Troy Vincent. Trotter is a little bit more recent, but no, you're probably right about that. But I mean, we haven't drafted the guys. I mean, let's be real. We've missed on draft picks. I mean, we've missed on Derek Barnett.
5 years has been really good.
Exactly. So maybe in the future, maybe 10 years from now, we'll be talking about a bunch of defensive guys under contract. Maybe 3 years from now, we're talking about what happened to the offense and everybody on defense is getting paid. I don't know. It's possible because they've drafted so well.
That's right. I'm not. By the way, I want to make a point to you because again, I was flipping around and I think I heard you say something about everyone's talking about taking a step back. And then I thought about it and I said this. I'm talking about taking a step back roster-wise with really talented people. I didn't say winning. I'm talking about with really good, unproven players that you have. That's a step back. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. It creates more questions going into September. What I'm thinking is this. Did we not see the Kansas City Chiefs do this, Andrew? A couple years ago, they won the Super Bowl throwing the ball all over the yard when he threw for $5,000, right? The next Super Bowl, the next year, they won defensively.
Yes.
Completely different style.
Yeah. And then they blew that up.
That might be here.
I know.
You know what I mean? You might have a different style here. So
you're going to have to do it a little better than the Chiefs, though. I'm not going to lie to you. I know they've been really successful. I'm not trying to take away from what they've done, but, like you just said, they won offensively, and then they won defensively, and ultimately where they are now is they blew up both units. If you think about it, they blew up the offense after they won offensively. They got rid of Tyreek Hill. They went to all those cheap ass receivers. Remember, they won a Super Bowl with Juju Smith-Schuster and Kadarius fucking Toney, which you had 2 touchdowns versus us, which is insane, by the way. But or 1 touchdown in the big punt return, whatever the hell it was. And then they won with defense, and they let L'Jarius Sneed walk. They let all these dudes walk on defense. The same thing. The linebacker, they let Fred. What's that guy's name? Fred Clark, whatever his name. I mean, they let them all walk. So I don't know. You're going to have to manage the cap a little bit better than Kansas City has. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do right now is they're trying not to overextend on guys that, aren't key guys so that they can try and keep as much, continuity as they can where they want to keep it.
Absolutely here. Let me put this out here. I was going to throw this out later on here, but I'll do it for you here. Let me ask you this. I wrote down, here are the Eagle players that have to have a huge 2024. Maybe
wait. Before we do this, can I tell you one thing? I wanted somebody remind me of a story. This is a great topic, so I want to have it clear. Can I tell you this story?
Please.
All right. So remember the other day we were talking about CJ Gardner-Johnson, and we were talking about the Jimmy Johnson quote of "You don't win Super Bowls with choir boys." All right. So I hit John with that quote the other day, and he had one of the most John McMullen-esque responses you'll ever hear in your life, but you will appreciate it. All right. So I hit him with that. I'm like, John, I don't know if they made a wrong decision here. You don't win championships with choir boys, as Jimmy Johnson once said. And immediately, no thought, no second thought, immediately hit me back with, well, here's another Jimmy Johnson quote. I'll treat you all the same, or I'll treat you all equal, but I won't treat you the same. In other words, the backup running back who falls asleep in the meeting room is fired. Emmitt Smith falls asleep. I don't give a shit. Absolutely. So he hit me with that. In other words, CJ Gardner-Johnson ain't Emmitt Smith. And I thought that was so good. I'm like, what a great thing to rebuttal me with a Jimmy Johnson quote. And I thought it was a good point. I wanted to share that with you.
How he coaches. I mean, you are fighting to climb up the totem pole of worth when you're playing for that guy. I mean, nobody's safe. He don't care who you are. I mean, that's how that guy operated here. All right. Eagles players that have to have a big 2025, right?
Is Uche on the list?
Yeah. No, I don't see him on the list here. He may have to get on the list here.
I thought for sure he'd be on the list, man. What happened?
Joshua Tree Uche. Yeah, you doing, man? That's my new Young Watson. How you doing? About Joshua Uche. Oh, my God, everyone's going nuts here over Joshua Uche. No, Joshua Acho, whatever his name is. Here you go. 2025 Philadelphia Eagles that I think have to have huge years for you guys to compete for a Super Bowl. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
This is all contingent on if you don't get Mekhi Becton back.
Okay.
Tyler Steen has to have a huge year, man. I mean, now look, I'll make this point to you that I think the most interchangeable positions on the Philadelphia Eagles, there's two of them. It's wide receiver 3 and it's right guard. But look at what they've gotten the last 3 years out of that. You realize you've had 3 different ball players, just like you've had 3 different running backs the last 3 years at right guard. You had Isaac Seumalo, who went on to sign a big deal with the Steelers. Then the year after, you had a guy do an alternate Pro Bowl year when you moved your center over, and your guy Jurgens played there, had a pretty decent season. He was good there. Then last year, you had Mekhi Becton, 3 different dudes. I think it's kind of ironic. You had 3 different running backs and 3 different right guards the last 3 seasons. I think he's got to show he could be the guy. I mean, to me, he hasn't shown me that he's a 3rd-round pick.
No, he hasn't yet. You're not wrong about that. He hasn't shown – I don't think he's proven to be a stiff. I think he's been proven to be a little better than that, but he hasn't proven to be a starter yet for sure. So I agree with that one for sure. It's not my number one, but I do agree with it.
How about this too, Xander? I don't think he's as much of a bust, and I agree with you. I don't think he has shown he's a stiff. He's not Andre Dillard, where Andre Dillard was a 1st-round pick. You could never see the starting lineup in Philly.
Dude, Jeff Stalin can't save you in your 1st rounder, right, bro. You might as well kick your feet up in Cancun and get it and order a pina colada because you ain't coming back.
Hey, does John have any insight on what they're going to do with Fred?
Fred, it's a good one. I got to talk to him about that. I haven't asked him, but he thought presumably early in the offseason, he thought it'd be a deal they got done because they value swing tackles and he's going to be probably pretty cheap, but we'll see. I'll ask John about that one tomorrow. I'll write that down.
Because I like him, man. I think he's a functional swing tackle. I
liked him too. I mean, he's not great, but he was good. I thought he was good when we needed him.
Hey, he's a competent guy, man.
Yeah.
Don't you think that Kobe Dean has to show that not only that he's a good player, and he's showing that he can play? Don't you think he's got to prove that if you're going to really put money around him, bro, you can't end a year in IR. Every year he's been an Eagle.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he was drafted with a shoulder injury.
Are we 3 for 3 on years ending and him on IR?
Yep.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, I like the player, and I was really happy that he came on this year, and kind of proved a lot of us wrong, and me included.
Yeah.
I was not, I did not believe in him much coming into the season, and I was super pumped for him. But there's no doubt about it, especially going into a contract year. I mean, you could argue last year was a contract year because if he stayed healthy all the way through, we might be talking about an extension for Nakobe Dean this offseason, right? So that's kind of gone because of the injury. So he's got to come in, he's got to stay healthy, and it wouldn't surprise me if he makes it all the way to free agency, though, next year. And he might – I don't know. I don't want to – maybe they won't break up the Georgia guys, but we did just pay crazy money to Bond, like for Eagles terms, for a linebacker. I think they're going to pay 2 linebackers. I don't know. I have a hard time thinking about that right now, but we'll talk about that another day. He's got to have a big year. I would agree with that, but he's not on my – how many are you giving me? How many names?
I got 4.
Okay. I'll come up with 4. I don't have him on my top 4.
I got 4 names.
Okay.
I got Jordan Davis, and I'll tell you why.
I have him on mine.
Because if you're going to have a linebacking core who had the same type of success, I want the middle of my defense to have the same look up front. I think the success of your linebackers were the athleticism that they possessed and the guys in front of them. And those guys were in shape. Let me tell you what I think Vic Fangio's greatest asset was to Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis was conditioning. Those guys were doing off conditioning drills when the other team wasn't. And those guys had said it, that we would constantly be doing more conditioning, because Vic obviously wasn't happy with the conditioning of the entire unit. Right. So what he was doing was he was conditioning those guys. Yeah. And those guys, if you notice, what happened? Davis got better in week 17. That's fucking unbelievably great. Yeah, to me, that is why I'm pausing still a little. I'm not entertained. I'm telling you, I swear, every day I'm warming up more to paying him. I'm warm because you know why? If they go into this year and Zach Bond and Nakobe or whomever, they end up having another great linebacking year, I know it's those 2 dudes in front of them. You can't play great linebacker play if you don't have great tackles in front of you.
I agree.
It's impossible. What made Ray Lewis such a great ball player in Baltimore? Well, he had Sam Adams and he had Tony Siragusa. No, not my college guy, but the big fella from Pitt. Those 2 dudes in the middle, Ray had free running lanes up and down the line of scrimmage. That's exactly what the Eagle defense had, and it also helped out the safety play. If you've got 2 D tackles, that caroms, Xander, to your backers and to your safety play, because the heart of your defense is stout. They were stout last year in the middle. That's why, again, I want Jordan to come back. Let me tell you this. I'll do this to you. If Jordan Davis has 5 sacks this year, and Jordan Davis and that defense finish in the top 10, it's a grand slam season because it's a transition from what they had with established players. Here, let's just say this.
Oh, they'll be top 10. They'll be top 10. They'll be top 10 next year.
I don't know about that yet. Because
I'm ready to say they're going to be top 10.
I'm not. Not with Keely fucking Ringo and Jalen Hunt and Joshua Uche.
You gotta be kidding me.
I gotta be kidding me. Really, Joshua Uche. And it's only going to be ready for the season. I do trust Vic, though. I do. I trust him. I think he can sneak that bitch in there. And to me, the difference between being the 9th or 10th and the 5th best and the 2nd best defense, it's all about getting better. By the way, not only were they the number 1 defense, but they were the number 1 defense every fucking week of the year, which is unbelievable. Most of the time, you see defenses go in swings. Sometimes they give up a couple yards or they're giving up yards against. And before you know it, they kept ascending. That team from Green Bay, Xander, went just like this. Exactly. Please hit the like button. They went, can you remember a down week they had?
The defense, other than that Washington game?
I'm going to give that Washington game, I'm going to give that an asterisk because when you lose your quarterback, the whole entire chemistry of that whole fucking thing gets spinned upside down.
You know what else happened in that game, right?
What?
CJ Gardner-Johnson got thrown out about halfway through that sucker, and then the defense fell into nothing land after that. They got shredded. Jaden Daniels had about 20. I forget how many points he had in the fourth quarter, and they won the game with 6 seconds left with a pass over the middle to the end zone, and the Commanders won. That was the only time this year I saw the defense without CJ Gardner-Johnson, and it looked maybe the worst it looked all year outside of Tampa.
Absolutely.
Not good.
No, Tampa, you had guys. I think the heat hit them. I think the injuries on the offensive side. I think both receivers were out in that ball game too. I think Lane was even out in that ball game against the Bucs. Sure, am I wrong when I say that? Right?
Yeah,
so
the Bucs, we had no Lane, no AJ, no Smitty.
Yeah, well, that's going to play a factor for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
The next one is Jomo.
I have him too. See, I was going to battle between Davis and Jomo. I wanted to put them both as well.
Yeah, and here's what I say to Moro Jomo. I mentioned something earlier, and I want to tell folks why the culture in Philadelphia is so spectacular right now, even with the exits. Man, can you imagine being a backup guy? You've got Vic Fangio telling people this. We can move on from these guys because I like my guys. You know what my ears would do if I was on that roster and they fucking came to me and said, hey, it's your time. Man, I would run through a brick wall for that guy. I would make myself so prepared. We're not talking about being handed the baton from like if you're in a relay race and you're like 4 white guys running the 4x100. Okay? That ain't gonna work. You're with the Eagles. You are the champion 4x100 team. Okay? You are, and you're being handed that baton. That to me, I'm like this. Man, if I'm Keely Ringo, I'm Moro Jomo, I'm guys like that. That gives me great confidence on the world champion Philadelphia Eagles that organization believes so much in me that they're giving me that opportunity. Hey, man, I'll sacrifice anything you need. And I would. That's really great. And I think this kid, and I've been saying it for 2 years, I like the kid. I think the kid plays good ball. Is he going to be as versatile as Milton? I can't say here on March 13th he can't. I don't know. I've never seen him playing 5-3 and a 1 technique. I've not seen that. I've seen him in limited roles playing a 2 technique and also playing over the nose. I haven't seen him out there out wide. But when I have seen him play, you know what I do? Here's something that Jimmy Johnson always taught me. Always look at guys who are around the ball. If you want to know who you want on your defense, this is why the CJ move is a little troubling, because you want guys who are always around the football.
Yep.
I don't care about guys playing great technique. I want guys making plays. And so I want playmaker guys. How many times do you look at the Eagle defense last year? You saw Carter and Bond around, and Cooper. Give me the faces you saw on every tackle. Cooper, Bond, Carter. Sweat would disappear. Milton sometimes. But the guys you saw around the ball all the time were that core group of names. That's how I judge a defense. How many hats are around the ball and who's always around the ball? That's when you know you got a good defender, because you need playmakers. And that's why, again, the Gardner-Johnson problem for me is, okay, touchdowns, yes. Coverage, not bad. Tackling, at times. Getting turnovers, huge. That's big on a defense, Xander.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think what you're saying right now is spot on. You know, I really do. And how much of that's mentality? You know, you play defense at a high level, because I do wonder if there's defense is a mental game. Like, defense is a mental battle where you got to be willing to put put everything on the line to stop. Defense is a whole nother mindset of like life. Like, growing up, I was always outside. When I played goalie, I was offense. My brother was always a defenseman in every sport he played, and my sister was always a defenseman in every sport I played. So every sport she played. So I was used to say, you guys are defensive minded people, you know? So it's kind of a mindset, but I agree with you. You got to, you got to have that mentality. And I don't know if this is my concern with Sidney Brown. Like, he's a hair on fire kind of guy, but does that translate to the game? That would be my concern with him. But no, I hear you. I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's not going to be easy to replicate, but going to have to make do now, man. I mean, Vic Fangio, they're asking him to go through it again, got rid of some playmakers, but I don't think they moved on from CJ without Vic's approval.
Well, let me tell you about playing defense here. Defense isn't a position. It's an attitude.
Yeah, baby. Yes.
No matter what it is, I don't give a shit what position you play. You got to want to knock people out. You got to want to play with an edge where you're going to have the attitude where you're going to do anything to kill that guy in front of you. And if you don't think like that, you ain't the dog I want in the building. That's not what you want, is some guy who's a pacifist over there on that side of the ball who's going to sit there and talk to me about fucking technique. Go make a fucking play. Bring the guy down. Get that caribou on the ground. Go get that dude. Those are the guys I want on my defense. That's the guys that I played with. Those are the guys who hunt. I want hunters. I don't want sheep. I don't want otters. I want lions. Okay? I mean, that's the kind of mentality you have. And I think, again, I bring this up to you with that RC, that the guy who was the general manager of the Buford, RC Buford, who was the general manager of the Spurs. He made a quote, and then him and Howie became really tight friends. I look at every single player there is possibly in the planet to come and play in San Antonio when he was the general manager, and he helped build 5 titles in that San Antonio franchise. He goes, I don't draft every player, and I don't sign every player because I'm looking for the right player. And that's what Howie has done. He looks at every guy there is and every deal there is. I showed you that text. Hey, folks, it's a true story. The New England Patriots have called the Eagles numerous times trying to get AJ wedged away from the Eagles. I showed Xander that. I showed Angelo, and I showed Howard. They were all stunned. But again, that doesn't mean Howie's going to pull the ripcord on it or the trap door on that. You got to wow him, which makes me think this, Xander, that everything is a possibility with Howie, but not everything will be executed.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. And I want to go back to the thing you said about defense being an attitude. There's one of my favorite football movies of all time is Remember the Titans.
Love that
and
movie.
You remember when the defensive coach, I'm blanking on his name, who is he? The not Herman Boone, but who was the other coach? The white coach. I'm blanking on his name. But anyway, I don't want them to gain another yard. We will blitz all night. And if they come by that line of scrimmage, I'll take every last one of you out the game. Now, obviously, that's not realistic, but I love that mentality because that's what Sills is talking about when he says defense is an attitude, defense is a mentality. I absolutely love that scene, and it made me think of that, what you just said with the defense. And I couldn't agree more, man. That's what I was trying to get at, and you explained it a lot better than me. But no doubt. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, though. I mean, I said it. I'm optimistic that the team can do it because they've been to 3 Super Bowls in 8 years, but this is definitely some turnover on this defense, probably more than most of us would expect. I mean, the only move, though, Sills, that's been surprising has been what? The CJ move, right?
Yep.
So everything else we kind of prepared for knew was coming.
Let me say something to you about, I went back and watched a little bit of Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith does play with energy. I mean, for a little dude, he blows people up, and I've heard Vic say it too numerous times. For an undersized guy, now I know why he's hurt all the time. He's an undersized guy, but he plays like he's 6'5". That's how he plays.
Right.
So there's an ad. You know what? If you watch Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl, I thought he was throwing the Kansas City Chiefs guys around a bit. I mean, I think Vic's been an influence in that kind of like having your engines ramped up like that, because I think you've got to play with that kind of energy, man. Dude, you got to want to rip somebody's, I try to tell my daughter that all the time too. When you go out there, man, I'm not looking for you to make a tackle. I'm looking for you to kill somebody.
No, you're right. This is where I think people don't understand, man. This game is mental warfare. It's exactly what I'm talking about, man. It's mental warfare out there. You remember the night they played the Titans. You got to remember when you face Dan Sileo or Dan Sileo, baby. Come on, Nolan. Now, the one thing I love about Nolan, though, is he's damn good against the run, and that's want to. Like, that's will, especially for an undersized guy. So I do love that about him. By the way, what was your topic? Top players to step up in 25?
Eagle players that have to play big in 25.
Yeah, he was my number one because
let me hear your list now. Let me hear your list.
Well, he was my number one because, you need somebody to be the anchor at the edge. And it's time for him to take on that role of, with Josh Sweat out the door. No one was great last year. He came on in the second half of the year. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. That's gone now. Like, I need you to be a great edge from week one. And he's got to be the reliable edge that's really closer to an every down guy that is hungry and is productive and does what he needs to do. And if you do that, if he elevates further than what he was last year, and you have Jalen Carter, I feel a lot better at what the whole offense or the whole defensive line is going to look like. Because you talked about replacing Josh Sweat, and I agree. But if you get a little bit more out of Nolan Smith, and he becomes that anchor on the defensive line, are we confident that the other guys can make up what the rest of the edge rushers did last year? Second half, Nolan Smith, Hufflepuff, and everybody else that did something. You know what I mean? I feel a little bit better than that. So I have Nolan Smith because I think you need a dominant guy over there. And I'm not saying he's going to be that, but he's got to be close to it, in my opinion. Number 2, guess who I got?
Oh,
Jalen Hurts, because you're talking about a defensive purge right now, right? You're talking about 4 or 5 starters on that defense being gone. Why is that? That's because offense is paid, all right? And I'm not saying Jalen wasn't good last year, but you're going to have to make up any drop. Let's say the defense goes from 1 to 3. You got to make up for that drop. Let's say the defense goes from 1 to 8. You got to make up for that drop. You're going to rely on the defense a little bit, but if your team is changing, if the dynamic is changing and you're not able to have the number 1 defense in the league, that means our offense is going to have to go from 27 points a game to 32 points a game. You're going to have to make up for that on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to say Jalen has to play one of his best seasons ever if the team wants a chance at a Super Bowl this year.
Here's why that's important, folks, what he just said. How many times do you remember that defense, given the offense, poor field position? I don't remember that at all a year ago, where that offense was in field position in games where it was poor. Didn't the defense always do their job and turn the ball over at least the 35?
They did, but it was both. Because remember, the offense was built with the running game, and they were so successful at it that they were the perfect tandem last year, if you think about it. The defense, as you mentioned, always gave them good field position, never gave up a lot of points in the game. And the offense, to their credit, when they got the ball, they took advantage. They ran out clock. They ran the ball successfully, play in and play out. They constantly moved the chains, never put their defense in a bad position, and they were the perfect complement. People talk about complementary football all the time. You got to play complementary football. So, like you said, if that shifts a little bit this year,
it will.
That's on the quarterback's shoulders to make up for. And I think he will, but I'm saying he's got to have a big year this year. Number 3, I have a toss-up at Sidney Brown or Tristan McCollum right now. And if they bring someone else in at safety, it's them. Because you're looking at that right side, all right, or that left side, however you would call it. Slay is gone, and CJ Gardner-Johnson's gone. Now you've created a big hole in the back of your defense, right, up in that corner. You go up against Matthew Stafford. We got to play Josh Allen this year. We got to play the entire NFC North with Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, and the Vikings. Now the Vikings are, I don't know what they are, but Jordan Love. So if you don't have a competent body back there, that's going to be where teams take advantage of you all year long. So it's one thing to lose just Slay. Now you've lost both guys back there, and you're essentially replacing them.
And your swing corner in Isaiah.
Right. So you're looking at a whole new secondary on that side. So whoever steps up, whether it be Keely Ringo or a draft pick or a free agent or a trade or whatever it might be, whether it be Sidney Brown or Tristan McCollum or Malachi Starks, whoever the Eagles want to get or whatever, they got to have a good year and they got to step up because you can't create that big of a gaping hole in the defense. You go up against a good passing quarterback, man, they're going to shred you. That's what they do. Matthew Stafford almost shredded us last year, and the defense was good. So if you give that to great players, great quarterbacks, great coaching staffs, they're going to take advantage of that. Number 4, I had Jordan Davis with you. I'm with you 100% on everything you said. If you want your linebackers to have another great year, if you want your defensive line to be productive, if you want to be the defense that you were or even come close to it, you're going to have a first-round draft pick and Jordan Davis step up and be a dominant player on that defensive line. And I'll go even further than you did, Sills. I need to see you in 3 technique. I'm sorry. I'm done with this. I'm done with any time we're in a 4-man front, Jordan Davis can't be on the field because he's a liability. I'm sorry. I don't need you to be the best pass rusher in the world. You cannot be a liability. You can't. And if you're a liability, then I'm sorry. I don't think you've earned your contract. Okay? Because you were taken in the first round. Now they've moved on from other defensive linemen because you're still here. You got to be better. I'm not asking you to be Aaron Donald. I'm not asking you to be Jalen Carter, but you can't be a liability. You cannot be a liability on the field in 4-man fronts. You got to have more versatility, at least to some degree, for Vic Fangio. So he's my number 4 right now.
The 13th pick and the 2-down guy.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Forget
that. Lose Milton.
Even if you take the 13th pick out of it.
And losing Milton.
Right. You lose Milton Williams, and you want our defense to stay as a unit. Jordan Davis is going to have to be more versatile and a better player in other fits. So we'll see on him. And then number 5, I had more with Jomo because, and I debated going A.J. Brown here because I think the running game is going to be great with the offensive line and with Saquon Barkley. I mentioned Jalen Hurts as number 2 because if you're going to need to make up for a drop in defense, it's going to come from the quarterback. Well, who's going to help the quarterback elevate? If you already have a good running game, where else does the offense elevate, right? It's got to be in the passing game. So you could go AJ, you could go Devontae here, but those receivers are going to have to get open, stay with Jalen Hurts, understand his style of play, never stop running routes, never stop getting open, come back to the ball, make life easier for Jalen Hurts, build that tandem, and I think you're going to be in good shape.
Isn't it funny? I see people in here saying something too, and I'm like, so you guys are finding guys you're calling garbage. Why would you undermine the guys that they believe in by trying to find guys to replace the guys you have on your roster? You're not trying. They believe in the guys they have. And when people in here are going, well, they're signing backup guys because they believe in the guy. Don't undermine your roster. Right. Every time somebody posts something, all we're doing is, oh, look at this. We signed other teams' garbage. Well, that's because they believed they have gold bars. What are you going to do? Try to replace gold bars with gold bars? The fuck are you guys talking about? So if they're getting backups, you know what they're working on, the Eagles? The Eagles are working on their second team now. They're working on their depth because they believed, whether you have question marks or not, like me, they're working on their backups and you know what they're really looking at right now? They're building up the 5% of the bottom of the roster right now. They're not working on the top end of the roster. They're working on here's the Jimmy Johnson line. You're only as good as a team as I'm always trying to replace the bottom 5, not the top 5.
Right. Top 5 are locked in. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, look, that's what they're doing right now. But by the way, that's also why, and I know you have fun with it because it is funny. The Josh Uche and the signings and who's it? Bryant, Harrison Bryant. We just signed the tight end. I get it. I understand you're having fun with it, but these are all they're very inconsequential signings. They're either going to work or they're not. They're either going to be here and they're going to contribute or they're going to be gone. Like Sileo named 8 of them that were cut last year, and we still had the number 1 defense in the NFL and won the Super Bowl. So they're all very inconsequential. We're getting bodies right now, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
Dude, but their names on a board right now.
I like Uche a little bit more than you. I like him because this is
no production.
Well, that's not true. He
really 41 games.
You're taking out games. You can't just Sileo. Let me just all right. Sileo played professional football at a high level, but he wasn't good outside his 2 years at Miami. He'd be like, hey, what the fuck, man? You don't do that. You don't do that.
Wait. So you take 1 year and wait a minute. You're never as good as your greatest year. Jalen hasn't been.
But that's the 22 year factor. You're saying he had 4 sacks. You're saying he had 4 sacks like his career.
Bryce Huff had 10 sacks too.
All right, bro. This guy's 750 grand guaranteed. Bryce Huff is 18.5. All right.
Oh, now you're throwing money in it. Oh,
yes, that matters.
Oh, it does, because you know what? You're right.
But
if Bryce Huff was $1 million, I'd be like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, who gives a shit? I mean,
I don't give a shit about Emilio Acho or Joshua Acho. I don't care about the guy.
Can I tell you why I fucking like the guy with Vic Fangio, for crying out loud? Because he's athletic. He's got speed. Look at what Vic's done with Jalen Hurts. Look at what he did with Nolan Smith. Look at what he did with Zach Bond. He seems to have a type of athlete that he can pull the most out of. And you look at Bryce Huff, he's not the fastest guy. He's not super explosive. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not the strong. He's kind of a tweener in everything. Now, he was a productive edge rusher, but Vic said, Vic saw Jalen Hurts and said, I can do more with Jalen Hurts because he's fast and athletic than I can do with Bryce Huff. And I think Uche is closer to that athletic guy than he is to Bryce Huffle-Snufflegus. So I like him because I think he fits with Vic Fangio, and I think Vic is going to get the most out of him. Come on, Sills. Sills, two Super Bowl runs and find me another football team you covered that went to 2 Super Bowls in your first 5 years covering.
No, it's not true. I can't name it. How about this?
Exactly.
You're right. I'm sure Vic is going to find a lot more to do with him than what Spags did. And I'm positive of that.
Vic just made Spags his bitch in that Super Bowl.
That guy's got 4 rings. He's okay.
I don't give a shit.
Too. He's okay with who he is.
What have you done for me lately? You got your ass beat by Jalen Hurts, baby. See ya. See ya.
Sure did, baby. 4 rings. Who's going to the Hall first?
I'm not saying he's not a great coordinator. I'm just saying just because Spags couldn't get anything.
Oh, no.
By the way, Spags is a certain type of coach. I mean, he's not.
Joshua Acho. Get ready, man. It's what is his name actually?
Uche.
Like Coochie. Joshua Coochie. Getting ready for him, man. I can't wait.
Deep fried Uche. Remember our member on JAKIB, deep fried Uche? Yeah, deep fried Uche.
Guess what? Hey, you know what the worst thing can happen is if this guy gets more playing time than Huff.
Oh God, that would be crazy. That would be crazy.
Yeah, you don't want to see that guy get more. Hey, dude, you praying for that guy.
Wait, I'm going to go out on a limb, and it's not really going out on a limb here. All right, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Bryce Huff is going to be better than he was last year because it's basically impossible to not be.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's going to be a little better.
That's
right. You basically can't be that unproductive if you tried. So we'll see.
Let's get these supers. We got bottom, and we also got Mark Schlereth.
Ask Farzi about what he was doing at the parade and why he was right next to the JAKIB float, and he didn't come over and say hi. Didn't put the camera on. I got a bone to pick with Farzi. PR said same take Sills said about Bonham replacing Edwards.
Difference was Bond didn't get an opportunity in New Orleans.
PR, and this is bullshit because PR was probably thinking the same thing. Oh, did you think that Zach Bond was going to be a good linebacker? PR, come on, man. There's plenty of shit to bash Sills on. Zach Bond is not one of them. Zach Bond himself laughed at his Pro Bowl incentive. He laughed at it. He said that.
Remember what they brought him here for? He was supposed to be an edge rusher, not an interior linebacker.
He asked Vic. John tells that story all the time. He asked Vic Fangio, when am I going to rush the passer?
Hey, PR Tavern, go back and have a couple, kid. It's all good. I'm Big Sills.
PR Tavern's got to get back to the tavern.
Yeah, go back and take a tap there.
Order a tall boy on me, brother.
Yep.
JD3, what's up, JD? Didn't get you guys' reaction earlier. Who the fuck is Uche, and did he even play for KC? That's a Sileo. That's a comment tailored for the National Football Show.
Hey, JD3, it's Joshua Tree Uche. Xander likes his 4.3. He's got good hips. This is the shit you'll hear for the draft with the guys who were pretending to be like draft experts. He's got great hip. He's got great speed. And he's got great reach for a 6-foot guy, 240-pound guy. He's 6 feet, 240. That's quite an edge rusher.
Wait, do you know PRs? He said, I will and celebrate my natty in 86. That's when you won the natty.
Yeah. I think he's goofing on. I think he's a Penn State guy. He's a Penn State guy because he got
what he's doing.
in '86.
Oh, you fucking Penn State.
Now you're on my shit list.
Why is every Penn State person the same? Why do they all act like
all
this?
Arrogant? All arrogant.
Even my girlfriend's a Penn Stater. I joke on her all. I hate Penn State. I hate it. I'll never root for Penn State.
Hey, all arrogant. Those folks. The only arrogant non-Penn, the only arrogant Penn State guy I've ever seen is Saquon.
That's true. That's true. He's not arrogant at all.
At all.
No. Fuck, we are. It's also the dumbest slogan. We are what? What? What are you?
We are bad in big games. That's what you are.
Exactly. Ryan Gardner. Dean gives me Jay Hicks vibes. Great when healthy.
Dean gives
Jordan Hicks.
Dude, he had a really good year. He did. He really did. Got to end the year healthy though, bro.
Brian Pumper, Kevin Patullo season, Joshua Uche, Harrison Ford, AJ, Dorian, Kenyon. Holy repeat season in full effect. Howie is cooking with grease. Woo! Let's go, Pump.
Harrison Ford, he's calling the tight end.
Oh, no.
Pump. How you doing, Pump? They're going to run the ball. You know what this thing's going to look like? Who's the name of that Army quarterback this last year they had? That guy that won all those
what was that guy's name? What was that guy's name? Was it Carson something? What was his name?
That guy who won all those games was up for the Heisman. That's what that offense is going to
You were calling Jalen Hurts that guy this year. I didn't forget.
Oh, no. Well, 2903 gets you that.
Oh, no. F off. How about a Bryson Daly?
Bryson Hurts.
Bryson Daly. Yo, Sileo, Super Bowl champion Jalen Hurts to you. All right. Relative time work. Sills, any chance being a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl motivates you to turn it around, or does it mean you are a lost cause? We now have 2 of them.
Bro, relative. Can I tell you what that would mean?
Wait, who's the second one? Huff and who?
Who was the second scratch, healthy scratch? All I know is this, relative. You're going to tell me, let me tell you what you got to do. He is in the doghouse with Vic, Bryce Huff. If you're healthy and they activated you for the playoffs and then they deactivated you again and you're healthy, you got a long, you better do a lot of great things in the offseason.
Oh, Uche. Uche's the other one.
Uche Coochie. That's what I'm going to call him. Uche Coochie.
No, stop with that. That's a shitty nickname. Come on.
Uche Coochie.
Guy's about to be a 10-sack guy in Philly. I love you. Yeah. I'm kidding. Oh, God, you're so easy to get. I mean, I burned you.
I love you.
Kimbos. Look at KC, the reloading they need. Cost of winning. That's true. Look at Philly. Same thing, bro.
That's right.
Look, same thing there. Brian Fleming says, can we keep re-signing people with hilarious names so Sileo can keep giving fire nicknames? Jahan Dotson, Josh Gucci, and Anus Smith. You got to be kidding me, Fleming. They do seem to have an ability to sign somebody that their name can be easily flexed or bent. Trucker Beans. Stop, Trucker.
Very easy to trump them.
Look at Trucker Beans. We love it, bro. He says, who will live up to their contract, Josh or Milton?
None.
Neither. Neither. Blaine Minor. Jerry Jones fills the car. Oh, we got that. All right, brother.
So you like the move, huh?
I don't like or dislike it. It's $1 million move. It doesn't matter. It's not a meaningful thing in the grand scheme of things. They're looking for darts that can contribute, or they're going to get cut in training camp. That's as simple as that.
It is. And you know what? They're working on the roster. They're not
the bottom of the roster.
On the unit.
Remember, not even 53. You're talking about 53 to 70 right now, too. Guys that compete with the guys who make 40 to 53, who have to battle with them in camp. That's what they're really doing, Bring good guys into the room.
You know what? That's a really great point. That, you know what? Some of these guys they're bringing in, because you go to camp with 90 guys.
Yeah,
and
right.
You keep 71. You're trying to build a practice roster here, too.
Yeah, because the better your practice roster is, the better your whole team gets. It's like the Alabama effect or the Georgia effect. Those dudes are so damn good because the people they practice against are better than the people they play against on Saturdays. If you have that in Philly, you got a good thing. All right, Sills, have a good segment with us.
You got it, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, everybody. Hit that like button.
You got it, guys. Please do me a favor. Hit that like button. By the way, we will have our friend Mark Schlereth on with us. That'll be at 5:30. I'll tell you this, man. I've learned a lot of things about Philadelphia in the 5 years talking with you guys. It is Paisan and Guinea T-shirt heaven. It is without a doubt. Let me say this to you. I mean, if you're not a Paisan and you're on the air in Philly, hey, man, I don't know. I think you got to be, because I think they take this is, like I said, Paisan heaven here. I mean, Angelo and Farzetta, who's coming up here in a second. I mean, well, then again, I get Howard Eskin, so I don't know too much. I mean, he showed me an Elvis doll. I don't know what that meant. That whole thing behind him. He had an Elvis. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell the Elvis doll was. He goes, look at this. It's an Elvis doll. I'm like, what is that here, man? So really fortunate to get these guys on, by the way, too. Ray Dittinger, man. He'll be on with us on Friday, I believe, taken away from his he's working on his book about Eagle history. He's writing a new chapter, Jalen Hurts and Sirianni era and all that. So we're looking forward to having him on. That'll be on Friday. But without further ado, man, I haven't talked to Farzy in a long time here, man. So let's get his thoughts here on what's going on with. They signed today Joshua Tree Uche. 4 sacks in 41 games. How you doing? Okay? Remember something, man. They're overhauling that defense. I'd say they took a blowtorch to that defense, but that's the price of winning. Let's see what Mark Farzetta has to say. He starts our broadcasting off here on JAKIB Sports. How you doing, brother?
Good. Thanks. Usually an extreme close-up when I start out, and we just pulled out. So I like that. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, one of the prerequisites is you have to at least have one of your parents Italian ancestry in order to be talking about sports in Philadelphia. So fortunately, I checked the box. So here I am, friend. How you doing?
Absolutely, man. I love the fact that you worked with Howard too. He's now becoming a staple now on the program, and I appreciate him coming on. And you know, you guys know how this guy works here. And I've said this before to you. I think the Eagles are doing the right thing right now. I mean, you're looking at what's happening in the next couple years. You're going to have a ton of draft choices. You had to make some tough choices. Farzy, isn't this a little bit what New England went through in 20 years when they had to move off of guys like Richard Seymour, Darrelle Revis, Randy Moss? I mean, you had to have cap integrity, and you had to have roster structure. I mean, what am I missing here? Why are people freaking out that, again, you're letting young, good players? That's the difference, though. I mean, Sweat and Slay are 25, 27 years old. You let CJ walk out the building. We'll get to him, but how are you seeing this offseason so far?
I'm seeing this as almost a necessary evil, and I think most people understood that Josh Sweat wasn't going to be back. I think most people understood that Darius Slay wasn't going to be back with the Eagles. Milton Williams, good Lord, did he get overpaid? And hey, you know, good for him. Usually the phrase is, oh, they outbid themselves when they signed so-and-so player. They had to outbid the Carolina Panthers. So good for Milton Williams that he had 2 people bidding. He certainly made out on that. So I think most people understood that those guys weren't going to be back. I maintained throughout the season, towards the end of the season, or at least when we started to really know, so early on in the year, that Zach Bond was going to be a legitimate player. I didn't know he was going to be a Defensive Player of the Year finalist, but I maintained that he was going to come back to the Eagles. And Howie Roseman said throughout the draft, or said throughout the combine, that we were going to have to look at the Eagles. The Eagles were going to have to look at Zach Bond as if he was priority number 1, and they were going to have to take away from other places to make sure that they kept him around. They didn't grow him as a football player, but they grew him as a talent, and that's all that really matters. And Vic Fangio was the one that was able to crack that code and get the absolute best out of Zach Bond, which ended up being one of the best in the NFL. So I knew some of these guys were going to be out the door. I wasn't expecting a Saquon Barkley extension. I don't know if that was a financial apology or not for Week 18, but certainly well worth that dime, no doubt about that. But I think a lot of people, when you look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, it's very rare that you have such a cut and dry case of you went to the Super Bowl with him, you got rid of him, didn't go to the Super Bowl, you brought him back, you went back to the Super Bowl, and you won it. So, like, what am I missing here? If you want to break it down to the Pro Football Focus numbers that said he allowed the most touchdowns in the NFL in 12 seasons, then fine, you could go to that. But the bottom line is a lot of those touchdowns came early on in the season when the defense was still very much figuring things out. And he's the only guy, Dan, that you could look at that in the second half of Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl round 1, he was the only guy bringing the wood for 4 quarters. Yeah. He was the only guy who I didn't doubt. And I never doubt his intensity, his work ethic, or his leadership, like some might, especially with the way it affected this Eagles team. And throughout the season, you saw no matter what was said about Nick Sirianni, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was always talking about how he'd, go out there and play for his coach, he'd go out there and play for Fangio. And quite frankly, it came down to a love affair with the city. So I think that's the one that stings the most. Now, for part 2 of your question with Howie Roseman, talk about the proof being in the pudding. I know I've told you this before, Dan. This job was a lot more fun when Howie Roseman sucked at his job. Okay, this is a lot. When he when he sucked, this was so much easier to talk about this stuff. Like you knew a lot more than him. But talk about the proof in the pudding, man. This is a guy that's now had 3 Super Bowl rosters. He's had 2 different head coaches over that span. The one Super Bowl was with a backup quarterback that he brought in with one of the deepest rosters ever in the NFL to win a Super Bowl. And then comes back with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, loses once, wins the next time with what some people are trying to rip the Eagles with by saying that, it was a super team. It was a super team that beat the Chiefs. Is that supposed to be a slight? Because that seems like a super compliment to Howie Roseman. So I do think that there's an overriding sense, no matter how disappointed he might be to see Sweat, Williams, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, whoever, leave the nest, there's an overwhelming sense of confidence that Howie knows what he's doing.
How about this, Mark, about that Gardner-Johnson move here? Like you said, well, he has been to 3 straight NFC championship games, 2 Super Bowls, and 2 Super Bowls with the Eagles, and he's had 12 picks in those 2 years where he was a turnover machine. Now, it's funny. Of course, if you talk to the Eagle fans because of the equity of the Lombardi Trophy, which is rightfully so, it's funny. I hear, well, Sidney Brown would be able to step right in it. And I'm going like, it's funny. Vic Fangio, when he was looking for a guy to go in there when he needed a role player, they went to Tristan McCullum. They didn't go to Sidney Brown. Yeah. So I know they may like the player, but that's not the guy they went to. I mean, was it more about attitude in your opinion? I mean, the Taylor Swift shirt at the parade, the back and forth. I mean, I heard this about him. When it came to scheme, he would break the structure of what they were doing. By the way, that ranking about TD passes is true. But take a look at where he was ranked in PFF when it came to coverage. He was 5th in safeties. So, I mean, he's a playmaking guy who takes risk, and he plays out of the box. He's not a structured guy. I'm assuming Vic said we can find a guy who could play in the scheme a little bit more with integrity of the scheme, may not have the same playmaking ability. But again, too, Mark, usually Howie does things to save money. This was a cash move. Mm-hmm. Do you think this was more of an attitude move and why they wanted him out of there? Because this just doesn't make sense.
I think it all comes down to money when it comes to Howie. I, without doubt, think
27.
Yeah. And I think without doubt, they put this in front of Vic Fangio and they said, look, we're looking to, get free up some money here, free up some cap space. We got moves we got to make. Vic, we're thinking about moving on from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. There's an opportunity to bring in a guard, as well as another 5th-round pick. Would it crush you if we let him go? No, that's probably the way it went. And I agree in terms of kind of going a little bit more free form. One of the things I liked about reacquiring Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was the idea that he seems to really understand a master of freedom when it comes to Vic Fangio's scheme. Of all the things that they talked about, and I'm sure you saw all the stories that come out of Miami about Vic Fangio and his relationship with a lot of the veteran players, one of the things that I really found interesting before everything hit the fan, if you caught Hard Knocks within the season, I went back and I watched it just for Vic Fangio stuff. And I really found it interesting that they spoke glowingly about Vic Fangio and his scheme. And it was the idea of understanding the freedom it allows a player, especially a defensive back, a safety, a nickel, whatever the case might be. You really understand the freedom, you can flourish in that system. I thought Chauncey Gardner-Johnson did a hell of a job of understanding that. Maybe it was a little too footloose and fancy-free for old Vic Fangio, but again, it worked. As far as the attitude portion of this, I don't think that had a lot to do with it. I think it had to do with numbers, and I think it had to do with overall play within the scheme. The attitude, the Eagles didn't just meet Chauncey Gardner-Johnson before the season. They kind of got a good understanding of who he was when he was in with the Saints in New Orleans, and certainly when they got here, they understood the player that he was. When they let him go, they understood the player that he was, and they brought him back because of the player that he was, not because I think they had anything necessarily against his attitude. He is always Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CJ, CD Deuce, no matter what you call him, he's always going to be the same type of player. He's always going to be the same type of person. He's always going to love to talk. And I think Darius Slay has been asked a number of times when he was at the Eagles, now talking about him in the past tense, who talks more? Slay, Brandon Graham, or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? And the overwhelming consensus was nobody talks more than BG, but the close second is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson when he's out there on the football field. So I think they understood the mentality of the player, the attitude of the player, and certainly the personality of the player. But overall, numbers, schematically, I think they felt like they had to move on from him.
Here is my take on Howie this offseason. You tell me, because you've covered him way longer than me. I look at him maybe taking a step back roster-wise. I didn't say wins and losses. I have no idea what that's going to look like next year. You build your team now. If you're building your team in September, you're late. You got to find the pieces to go to work. The payoff is during the regular season on what the work you do in the offseason is. And to me, with the draft picks that they have, they know they're going to have to pay, and we'll talk about it a little bit. They're going to have to pay, I think, north of $40 million potentially for Jalen Carter next year in an extension. I mean, he's going to reset the market because we're seeing, I mean, like you just mentioned, Milton Williams, who I think is a good player. Do I think he's a $30 million a year guy, 26? No, I do not. And do I think he even fulfills that contract? There's even an out after 2 years to protect the Patriots to get the hell out of that deal in the third year. So it goes down to 12 in the third year. So they can move off that thing because the cap's going to be over $300 million by then. So you got to really look at the guaranteed dough in that end here. I mean, he's taking, because you lost 5 starters on defense. I don't care what anybody says. You know, me being Big Sills, I'd say you took a blowtorch to it, but whatever you want to do, if you take a lighter to it, you have lost 5 starters, and now you have question marks going in to this season, or at least the offseason here. And here are your edge guys.
Yeah.
A Nolan Smith, who's injured. Jalix Hunt, who's a project still. We don't know can that guy play 3 downs? Can he go 20 games? I don't know. Bryce Huff, who was a colossal disaster last year. And now you got Emilio Acho or Joshua Uche. Those are your edge guys, not counting the guy you're going to draft. I mean, your edge, they didn't really need a superstar edge to win a Super Bowl last year. But how do you see how he's constructing this team? It just seems, they're rentals every year on defense. It's like they lease that side of the ball, like you're leasing a car and they buy the car over on the offense.
Mm-hmm. I had a similar thought, and it's along the same lines as you have a stacked offense right now. You know that this offense is going to score points. You know Saquon Barkley behind this offensive line. And look, if there's any position to be cocky with or position group to be cocky with the Eagles, it's the offensive line. And you feel like Jeff Stoutland can just wave his magic offensive lineman wand and produce another Pro Bowler. But you feel like you're far ahead of the vast majority of the league. And you should feel it. You blow out the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl, you feel like the league's got some catching up to do to you.
Oh, yeah.
The problem, though, with that is I never like it when teams get cocky. And I'm not saying that Howie Roseman is getting cocky, but I think part of his approach is this offense is stacked. We can have a lot of wiggle room on defense. We might have a year here where not necessarily have anything over dramatic, like a gap year or anything like that, where they just kind of sit still and stand pat and allow themselves to move on from not only, as you mentioned, the interceptions leader in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but also your sack leader in Josh Sweat. You see what Nolan Smith can develop into. You see what Moro Ajomo can develop into. You certainly see what Jalen Carter can do. And you know how dominant he can be. So can he help bridge that gap and make things a little bit easier for the incumbent, for whoever is going to take over for Milton Williams? Can he make things that much easier? Is Jalen Carter going to be a bit of a kingmaker in terms of, I can get the next guy paid too? Not just myself, but get another guy paid to the standard of Milton Williams. Can he make another guy look that good? Right. So I think Howie is counting on this offense to be as dominant as it was this past season, especially with Saquon. And A.J. Brown was never going anywhere and never bought into anything that he was going to the Patriots. So you're still going to have a stacked offense. Tight end-wise, Dallas Goedert being given permission to seek a trade, the Eagles not being willing to pay him what he wants to be paid in the future. I think you're going to go back a little bit with tight end. You're most likely going to draft. But I think Howie's looking at it as my offense is still going to be pretty stacked. I can still put up points. It's a matter of whether or not my defense can at least hold teams. And this isn't with a bunch of scrubs. You still got obviously Jalen Carter in that middle of that defensive line. You still have Zach Ball and Nakobe Dean coming back from injury. They seem to be pretty high on Jeremiah Trotter Jr., especially allowing Oren Burks to walk for next to nothing. And then you also have your corners. You also have your defensive backs in your nickel. You have Quenyon Mitchell and you have Cooper DeJean. So you still feel pretty good about the defense. You still lost a significant amount, but you feel like right now you have guys in-house that can help build that and guys later that you can groom to take over for that. But I think it mostly comes down to how much confidence Howie Roseman and really I think the entire Eagles fan base has in the offense, that you have a little bit of wiggle room defensively because you feel like you can outscore opponents with this offense.
I mean, here's another example of, fans going, well, Keely Ringo, going to slide him in the corner. Well, that's not who Vic went to last year when he needed he went to Isaiah. I mean, Isaiah Rodgers was the swing corner. Keely Ringo wasn't the guy. Now, albeit I get it. He's 20. He's a young kid. I mean, he was young when he came into the league. You still kind of maybe you see some talent that the kid has there, but I don't think that that's going to be that easy to replace Darius Slay out there. I mean, the Steelers went out and gave him a $10 million deal, which I thought was insane for a 35-year-old corner, 34-year-old corner, what have you, man. I mean, holy cow there. But of all the guys that have been exited off the team, Slay, Sweat, Milton Williams, Oren Burks, Isaiah, who do you believe is going to be the toughest to find really the replacement that's going to bring you the volume of production? That is he on the team? Do you think those guys? Who do you think is going to be the toughest to replace?
I honestly think it's going to be Darius Slay because he played well last year. He was banged up, and he looked like a guy that was saving a lot for the postseason. I will say that. I agree. The $10 million from the Steelers. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, absolutely not doing that. He looked at it. He looked at it as his last bag, as most athletes do. So good for him. But I think outside corner, there's one theory floating around out there that Cooper DeJean in a base 4-3 would play on the outside. And then when they moved to nickel, he would move back to nickel with Keely Ringo being moved out there. But I thought the same thing. Now, if I remember correctly, in the Green Bay game, in the first game of the season in Brazil, we were all expecting, I believe it was Isaiah Rodgers to come off the bench first to go out there at corner, but it was Keely Ringo. And then Ringo started to lose favor, got banged up a little bit, and Isaiah Rodgers started to take over. But to answer your question point blank, the person that's going to be missed the most is Milton Williams. I like Jordan Davis, but Jordan Davis went down in terms of snaps. I know, nose tackle, whatever you want to call him, but who's going to be that guy that's going to be next to Jalen Carter? Jalen Carter is going to open up a red carpet for whoever's going to be playing defensive tackle with him. And that red carpet is going to lead to a big old bag of money, just like it did for Milton Williams. If somebody comes in here and is at the very least talent-wise adequate, you're going to look a hell of a lot better playing next to Jalen Carter with the double teams he's going to be taking up. I want to see Jordan Davis be able to take over that responsibility a little bit more than 33% of the snaps. Are you kidding me? No way. I want to see somebody come in here and take over that responsibility with great authority, the way they should. Even somebody who is a little bit talented. Not somebody coming in here as an established Pro Bowler or a seasoned veteran or anything like that. Just somebody coming in here looking to make a name for themselves with some ability. They're going to look pretty damn good if they are at least a little bit good playing next to Jalen Carter. So I look at that defensive tackle spot as still something that the Eagles have to fill. It has to be somebody that could come in here and play at the very least, 40% of the snaps whenever you don't see Jordan Davis on the field with him.
Two last ones here for you, Farzy. Okay, so what you're saying there is, okay, and I agree with everything you just said, but here's my take back at people. So last year, Jalen Carter was one of the most double and triple team guys. And you had two dudes on that D line, and Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, who just signed significant deals. You really think you got the guys on the roster that are going to limit those double teams and triple teams, that these guys who haven't played those reps, that you're going to limit the triple teams and double teams of Jalen Carter? I find that to be a tough ask. And like you said, Moro Ojomo, I agree with you because here I think is the hidden value of Milton. Milton can play a 7-5-3, and at times if you need a zero technique in the nose, he could get down in there and play. His versatility is what made him an expensive guy, but it also created the ability to be able to be versatile. Look at the way Zach Blount could cover and also the way he pursued. Look at how you had versatility with Cooper DeJean, putting him in the slot. You could also, how he ran around the field and looked like a corner at times, looked like a slot nickel. You had all these guys with all this versatility that you had. That's a big loss when you're talking about what that guy brought to your football team. And then the volume of reps that Josh Sweat. You're talking about a guy north of 600 snaps and 40 sacks in the last 5 years that brought to your football team, and you're going to get limited double teams on him? Boy, that's going to – you're really asking Vic to kind of make chicken shit and chicken soup here, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and you're supposed to do that with still you still got to get a corner. And I know the draft still has to – and that's the other thing about – and you know that everyone knows this, but you look at the offseason, the NFL, and I always make the point that it kind of sucks because nobody else has the blueprint but Howie and maybe Jeffrey Lurie. So you're only seeing moves being done one at a time. So you judge, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being here and be like, well, what the hell are they going to do? And that then you judge, Darius Slay not being here. And you're like, I call it because still kind of saw it coming, but what are they going to do? So is it the draft? Is it continuing in the free agency? Are they going to Justin Simmons, has spoken highly about the Eagles, obviously in the offseason, all that stuff. So for me, when it comes to the defensive line, though, the Eagles always tell you time and time again, and Howie Roseman reiterated this at the Combine, they know where their bread's buttered. It's in the trenches. It's the offense and defensive line. Last year, Sills, you and I had a conversation, and I had this conversation with many people, but we weren't used to the Eagles going into a season with they were a little light there at the defensive line position. Yeah. Milton Williams still had to prove himself a little bit. You didn't know what you had in Jordan Davis. Everyone was feeling good about the shape he was in, and he looked like a cyclist when he was cycling for the Eagles during their charity event, and everyone jumped on that. He had the great phrase about Fletcher Cox isn't walking through that door. This is our time, and that amounted into fewer snaps. So that's so much of this season and the success is going to ride on how much more of a step forward you can see from Jordan Davis, because seeing him take a decrease in snaps and seeing someone of the versatility of Milton Williams, that's one of the things you loved about him, playing on the outside, playing on the inside. You could have 3 defensive tackles out there, essentially. That was great. But Jordan Davis has to take that next step forward. If you're looking at anybody on the roster, other than Keely Ringo, maybe, that could take that big step forward to really help out this team and gloss over whatever has happened in free agency to the point where in the years to come, we talk about the 2025 offseason after they won the Super Bowl. Well, Howie unloaded a lot of the defensive players, but they didn't miss a beat. That's what you're hoping for. But it's Keely Ringo and it's also Jordan Davis. It's 2 guys that are on the roster right now that need to take the biggest step forward if they're going to help bridge the gap between anything else going on right now in this Eagles defense. Hey, look, Tristan McCullum, good for him. I don't see him doing it. Yep. Sidney Brown, I love Sidney Brown. I root for Sidney Brown. He's an easy guy to root for. He's a heat-seeking missile and all that stuff, but you got to find a way to corral that into making smart plays, not always the big hit. And I know he's a very determined player, and I hope he can do it. But I don't have confidence. The guys that I think are at least somewhat close to making something happen are Jordan Davis and Keely Ringo.
Last one here for you. You mentioned him. I mean, right now on March 13th, he's eligible this offseason here for a contract extension is Jordan Davis. I mean, here's a guy who can't play 3 downs. He plays 20 snaps, a little bit over that a game. 20 snaps. And the way it's looking, he's a 3rd-tier guy on that 5th-year option if you want to use that to extend him. So it's somewhere around $12 million for a guy who wasn't better than Milton Williams and Moro Ojomo the last 2 years. Right now, do you think that guy, are you extending him? Now, let's go on the other side. I think the linebacking core, I think they benefited from having him and Carter being in there. And I thought Jordan actually, from the Giant game at the end of the year through the playoffs, I thought he actually played well. He was in better shape because of what Vic did with the extra conditioning that had them guys ready. So I'm caught in the middle, and I don't really like that. But I mean, I'm looking at him and I don't know, man. Just to sit there and go, yeah, I'll stroke a check for $12 million. Now I turn around and go, look what Milton got at 26. Is that a bargain?
Yeah,
it might be, but the versatility that guy brought, and if you're telling me Moro Jomo and Milton Williams are better, how am I signing him to a 12-year contract per year on an extension? I just don't see it.
Right, the $12 million for him, it still seems steep, no matter what, because it's the Eagles' money. But did you sign Jonathan Allen? Nope. Did you re-sign Milton Williams? Nope. So what are you going to now save money? What are you talking about? $12 million from one of your own homegrown players? If you would have asked me at the end of the season, and I was saying at the end of the season, I don't think he's earned that deal. I mean, you're talking about the year. You're talking about the year. I bet since when has that mattered? You know what I mean? In sports, has he earned the deal? No, well, give it to him anyway.
It mattered though, Farsi, to them when it came to Gardner-Johnson. When it came, because that's a money move. That wasn't just there was no cap savings. They didn't want to pay the guy $8 million anymore because they thought they could do more with maybe what they had on the roster, or maybe they're going to find somebody else. I mean, that's exactly whatever you want to believe happened there. But I mean, that was a money move. This right here, could this be a money move too? Or do you believe it? Because the production he has not been productive since he's been here.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I thought this year was supposed to be the big test.
Yeah.
And look, I thought he played well at the beginning of the season.
To a lesser position,
Right. They asked him to do less, essentially. But literally, and less snaps. They're say, hey, you know what? Do less, and that'll help us. So I still think he gets that extension. As we mentioned, talking about the safety position in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the Eagles, I think they feel they have someone in-house that could take over in Tristan McCullum. I feel like they have someone that could also compete for that role in Sidney Brown. And when you come to the defensive tackle position for the Eagles, hey, look, I'm hopeful for Moro. Hell, I'm hopeful for Thomas Booker IV. You know what I mean? But that you're a little weak there at that position. You're a little light on that depth chart. You were last year going into it. Milton Williams played better than anybody thought. Nolan Smith, I told you last year, if I'm with the Eagles, I'm not expecting anything from Nolan Smith. He's got to show me. And boy, did he show me this year after the bye week, and then ramped it up another period after BG went down against the Rams. I need to see guys step up, and the Eagles certainly need to see guys step up, and nobody looks like they're stepping up right now in the defensive line other than Jalen Carter. I got hopes for Moro Jomo. Jordan Davis has to be that next man up. He has to be the guy to depend on. And this was supposed to be the huge test. And he didn't look like a guy that really passed the test to me. Start of the season, I thought he played well. End of the season started to come on a little bit. He also was getting double teamed. And then I thought in the playoffs, he put together a nice run. Not a great run, not a, redeeming run. But where's that level all season long? And that's the test that I don't think he passed throughout the year.
$13 million for one tackle and 40 for the other. How you doing? You see that going on? They're going to pay 13 for one and 40 for another.
Well, I wish I was bigger. I wish I was more athletic, and I could have played.
I wish I was thinner and younger.
Yeah, right. But I think they. What comes down to the Eagles is they're going to pay Jordan Davis the extension. They're gonna sign him onto that rookie extension, and then they're gonna put him. Yeah, if you're asking my desire versus my prediction is they do it.
Yeah,
and then this will be the real test. This will be the real test as to whether or not he can pass. That'll be their attitude. That'll be their mindset with it throughout the upcoming season. And right now they don't have many better options. And then, as part of paying Jalen Carter, the absolute you can't not pay that guy. That could be, if Jordan Davis doesn't pass the test, that could be more money in Jalen Carter's pocket. Damn. Where it should go anyway.
I'll tell you what, man. They ain't paying them guys in liras. I'll tell you that. They're paying them guys in big ducks, bro. I'll tell you, man. Howie, this guy here, man, is like the Wizard of Oz.
What would 20 million lira be? No, what would $20 million be in lira?
Wait, in today's market, probably in Trump's world, probably $7.
$7. Jeez, Mary and Joseph. That's a couple of dollars. That's 4 crates of eggs, I think.
Yeah. No. Oh my God, eggs are $12 a shot, man. How you doing?
I'm gonna start buying chickens like my grandfather. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Chickens. That's right. That's what we need. We need to go. See, Paisans, people don't understand. We grow fig trees. We grow peach trees. Okay. We used to have a fig tree in our backyard. My grandfather spoke Italian 50% of the time. I grew up in a house where Italian was spoken half the time. The things they didn't want me to hear, everyone spoke Italian. So again, I mean, I grew up like Farzy, I swear to God, they had the face of Sicily on it. The whole thing, man. I mean,
I was going to say they probably spoke Sicilian dialect and a very specific Sicilian dialect.
The whole thing was in Italian. They'd be in the car. We'd go for a drive down to the Cove, and everybody be talking Italian to me, and they go, you know, hey, you know, aspetta this guy over here, you know.
Oh my God, yeah.
And you're going like, what the hell are they? Then I started picking it up. That's when they stopped doing it. I don't know.
But Hashpet is a very big dialect word for all the Medigans. The Hashpet is a very because the Queen's Italian is supposed to be like aspette, like that aspette. But the dialect of the southern regions, like Calabria, which is southern, thank you, and Sicily, which is the most southern, is more of a hashpet, like a hashpet type of thing. It gets a little stank on it.
Holy cow! That is my brother from another mother, Farzetta. How you doing? I appreciate you doing this for me, brother. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
We are in a very. Tell me the truth. This is a fun time, though, because I mean, you have a lot of drama going on here. Hey, one last one. Does Goddard start the year in September with the Eagles? Is he there or is he gone? I think he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. I thought it was 55% that he was back at the end of the year. But once you see reports about go seek a trade. That ends two ways. One, you get traded, or two, you hold out. And Dallas Goedert, to me, isn't the type of guy that holds out. Like, I don't think you're going to see him in a bathrobe and fuzzy slippers in Japan like you did to Hassan Reddick. But I think he also knows that this could be one of his last deals as well. He also knows that he's been banged up in his career. He doesn't want to risk it. He doesn't want to go out with some, God forbid, injury and then have to rework his entire NFL career. So I think it's a matter of the Eagles saying, look, we want you back on the deal that you're at. We're not spending more money than we have to. And then I think the deals that they've made so far this offseason kind of attest to that already. So go seek that trade. Go see what you can get back. And then some other team, I hope for his sake, because I really like Dallas Goedert. And I think the guy with the injuries, unfortunately, he's been a workhorse for this Eagles team. I think he is a Pro Bowl caliber player that unfortunately hasn't been out there long enough or healthy enough to prove that he is absolutely worthy of that. But I think talent-wise, he absolutely has that. So I hope the best thing happens for him, but ultimately you're pulling for the Eagles in all of this. But if you're making a prediction, I think he's played his last down as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's elsewhere on a new deal.
Absolutely, man. And to Hassan Reddick, man, he thought he was Pai Mei last year, if anyone knows Kill Bill. He thought he was Pai Mei last year with them slippers on, and he ended up getting sent with the five-finger death pop. Boom, with the Eagles. And
I was just gonna say, was it five fingers? He did that to his bank account last year, and then this year he brought it back to life.
He threw $15 million in the trash can and lit it on fire, and then put his slippers on. How you doing? Hey, Barty, thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Hey, take it easy, guys. Take it easy.
You got it. That is our friend Mark Farzetta. We appreciate him. Don't forget to check his show out each and every single day. Starts off the broadcasting here on JAKIB Sports, too. Bottom of the hour, we're going to talk to our boy, Mark Schlereth from Fox Sports. We will talk with him, get his thoughts, but don't forget my great friends at Morgan & Morgan. The #1 injury law firm in the United States is my friend John Morgan's firm. You bet, man. If you're ever injured, you have to check out my friends with over $20 billion recovered for clients across the country. I told you about the family in PA, right here in PA. $650K they were offered by an initial insurance company offer. They said absolutely no way. They ended up getting almost $30 million in recovery for that family in PA. In Florida, $350K. Here, take it. No way. Morgan goes in there. John and his people, thousands go in there. They end up getting $12 million for that particular client and their family there. If you're ever injured, please check out my friends at Morgan & Morgan for more info. forthepeople.com/Big Sills or Pound Law 529. That's FORthepeople.com/Big Sills or Pound Law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sill sent you.
This is Eric. When he got injured in a car accident, he called Morgan & Morgan. He not only gets a lawyer, he gets trial lawyers like Sam and Jessica who are in it to win it. He gets his own investigators with briefcases, leather ones. And if you ever have questions, our customer service folks keep things rolling. Injured? We're your army. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES, Eagles.
I don't know what it is with me here, but I'm now going like 3 hours straight. That shows you the content we have. I mean, it's incredible. That's the first break I took, right? Am I right when I say that? It's the first break I took. I think I've done that 3 days in a row. It just shows you again what's going on. And, you know, it's funny. This is the time of the year where people could say, okay, you want to hear something absolutely asinine? So Pete Prisco, who's the #1 guy, NFL guy at CBS.com, CBSSports.com. And I know the guy. He's a complete asshole. Another guy who doesn't know me from a fucking can of paint. When I was on in Florida, by the way, they put my show on in Jacksonville on the same station he does Afternoon Drive. And by the way, you know what? The station he's on, you can bet and you can guess that it's the home of the Jaguars. And so this guy starts talking shit, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I mean, it's like the same shit that goes on in yours. My show at one time was on in Tampa, Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, and Jacksonville. Okay? For 15 years. I had the whole entire South to myself. No show had higher ratings. It's a fact. Revenue and ratings. 2 R's that I only give a shit about. Results, if you want to add that. Ratings and revenue. It's the only thing that matters in life. in my business, ratings and revenue. So this guy starts talking shit to me. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? So here's what he said the other day. He said he'd rather take Trevor Lawrence over Jalen Hurts. And I'm like, I get the physicality, what he's talking about. But according to Pete Prisco, he would take Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady. And then he would tell you probably no. Look at Brady's results. Well, you can't have it both ways when you're talking about Jalen Hurts. Results have to matter. As great as the talent can be, results have to matter. You can't keep telling me how freaking good you are and you have losing seasons. One thing about Josh Allen, Allen has not had a losing season, and he's in the AFC, and the Bills haven't put a good enough team around him. That's not Josh Allen's fault. That's the curse of being drafted to Buffalo. Ask Jim Kelly. It's what it is. You got to win. You got to deal with that. But Josh Allen, I get it. Trevor Lawrence, and only because, get this, only because he's on that station in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, and he's taking a knee because he covers the Jags. That's not a conversation is with substance. There's an angle to it. Give me a break. Okay. Hey, Bob, what was that thing you posted about Cortez and Maryland? I want you to repost that. Put that back up there again because I thought that was right. Dude, Trevor Lawrence has underachieved. He is completely underachieved. Now, is Jacksonville at fault? Well, dude, Mark Brunell's the only guy that's ever had any kind of success there. The Jags suck. Okay? Here. Okay? Another roster sign. That's what that is. It's another roster sign. I don't know. Again, he's improving the bottom end of his roster. Does that move the needle for me? I don't really care. You guys can have special breakdowns of Adoree Jackson, part of the Jackson 5. Congratulations to you. Hope the kid pans out and he's not Matt Hennessy. Congratulations. You signed Adoree Jackson. What was the guy's name earlier? Hudson Hawk. Or what was the guy's name? Harrison Buckner, the tight end from the Raiders. And what was the other guy's name? Joshua Uche. Oh, no, man. God dang, I don't care. Wow. Hit the like button. These moves don't matter. You're looking for a diamond in the rough. It's all good. Dude, it's all good. Hey, look at this guy. I'll tell you one thing, man, for sure. OZ will have to sit there and watch this one. He'll never get a $65 million annual deal. Ever. Ever. They will never pay him that. Jalen Hurts. Never happened. 65. You're going to pay him more than Allen. Never happened. Ever. Hey, Maniac, you're going to find out how much they love him. Let's see if they extend him in the offseason. I don't believe they will. Here you go. This is what I wanted. Sills, when you and Jerome left, Cortez and Maryland got quality reps. With Sweat and Milton gone, Hunt, Smith, and Ojomo will get the quality reps. That's correct. But what you also had was that, from what I understand, Sweat and Milton Williams were also talking to Jalix Hunt, because Jalix Hunt even addressed that Sweat was the GOAT, and he was helping him the whole time. That's a great culture because Jerome and I would constantly help guys like Cortez and Russell Maryland. They would come to us and they were asking us, hey, how do you play the 3 technique? Do you cheat over here? Do you put your head front side? Okay. I mean, yeah. And then what you're doing is because they wanted to get better, you helped them. I did. I helped recruit Cortez Kennedy. Russell had 1 scholarship offer. Shit, they didn't even like him at Miami. Me and Jerome loved him. We thought he had great feet and he moved well inside, wasn't overly tall. He was a prototypical defensive tackle that played at Miami at the time, and I really liked him. And I thought he worked hard, became the number 1 overall pick. And Cortez turned out to be a Hall of Fame player. We helped those guys a ton. Jimmy loved him. Absolutely did. Yep, no doubt. Swing corner, kick return, punt returner. I like to sign, Sills. Okay. Taking Britton Covey's spot, potentially. All right. Hey, dude, I told you, I like the running back that you signed. The tight end, is he a run blocker? If he is, from the Raiders, great. You're strengthening your rooms, right? These are all necessity hires for a team like the Eagles that are going to pay people. Okay? Everybody, look at Manny. I hate to sign. Why do you hate to sign? What are you looking to sign here? Who? Derek Stingley? Who are you expecting to sign here now? 2 days after free agency really started. Well, Monday it started. Who are you expecting? Especially with the money that you're spending on offense. Maniac, I swear to God, we got to get in Jimmy Johnson's fishing tournament. Seals, consider this. Extend Davis now. 4 years, $52 million. 10, 12, 14, 16. $40 million guaranteed. Damn. 12 mil sign. Give him big bonuses for playing time and sacks. So you're going to pay a guy $12 million to play DT, and then you're going to pay the next guy $40 million, right? Is that what you're doing? It's a lot of money. Who goes on offense? I don't believe Mekhi Becton's back. I think that's an interchangeable position. There's 2 things that are now becoming evident for the Eagles where you save money. Wide receiver 3 and right guard. You've had 3 different dudes the last 3 years at both positions. They're not spending any money at the positions. Mekhi Becton, what did he have? A $3.5 million deal? You think they're going to bump that up to 11, 12? Mark Schlereth is going to – I'll ask him what he thinks of Becton. Okay? I'll ask him what he thinks. That'll be at the bottom of the hour. Our friend from Fox Sports. 3 Super Bowl championships he has. You can catch him calling games for Fox Sports. I think he's on Team 3 of Fox Sports calling NFL football games. I like Stink. I think he does a great job. Hit the like button here. I love that we're signing depth. That's what you're doing now. You're trying to make the roster better. Hey, dude, the only way you're going to win a Super Bowl is if you're 53 sound, not your 22. Look at what happened. Hey, here's the biggest problem that Detroit had. Detroit's 22 are great, but their 53 couldn't hang on with the 246 injuries they had last year. 246 games missed by players. Most in the league by far. Niners, I think, were 4th. You can't sustain that if you don't have a 53. Look at what the Eagles, get this. Everyone goes, well, the Eagles were healthy. Well, not really. But they overcame. BG might have gone to the Pro Bowl. You lose him and leadership. You put another guy in, Hunt elevates his game, so does Smith. Okay? Wash. Shit, Orton Burke stepped in for Dean. Dean was playing really good ball. Burks played exceptional ball in the playoffs. That's your 53 coming through for you. Isaiah Rodgers. Dude, I can't tell you how important your substitute teachers were last year to you. How important was Isaiah Rodgers, Felix Hunt, and Nolan Smith when it came to replacing starters when needed? They were essential in your Super Bowl success. Okay? Somebody keeps asking me, Sills, your take on Adoree Jackson. Okay, he could be a piece. I gave you the names last year, what you did. What do you want me to say? Will Greer, Devin White, Bryce Huff, Devontae Parker, Matt Hennessy, John Ross, Tyler Hall, PJ Musfier, DT. These were all dudes also signed. What do you want me to say? He's in that group. Gail goes, I'm not talking about the success of Bond, Burks, Barkley. I'm talking about the collective group he signed. Those guys had no impact. Again, hey, get this. Finding a Zach Bond, again, show me again where they've done that. That was an outlier, not common. Nobody talks about our injuries because there was never a game. How about this one too? Bald Eagle. When Mulata went down, Fred stepped in. He stuffed the kid from Cincinnati that you want to trade for. Your level of your backups in the 53-man roster and what he's doing with this Jackson kid. That's what you're trying to do now. Hey, let's do this. Who's going to, if you want to move Keely Ringo out to the number, who's going to be Isaiah, who's playing Isaiah Rodgers' role? Who's going to play Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt's role if those guys are going to start? Where are you getting those players? That's what they're looking for. That's why you've got good coaching. Okay? I mean, by the way, this is common. Here, I'll give you this. Coach Johnson, every Tuesday, used to bring in 20 players to evaluate on Players' Day Off. Do you know what that was for? The Cowboys were 1-15. Jimmy would bring in 20 players. You know what everybody on the roster said? Holy shit. He's looking for ball players. Wow. Holy shit. That's a bad team at the time. As they started getting better, it went from 20 to 10. Then it went from 10 to 3. And when they started winning Super Bowls, it went to 1. Walked into a team meeting and said this: don't ever let me have to get back to 10. Very few of you are in here have safe jobs. Jimmy threatened you with, do your job, because I will fucking replace you. That went on. Hey, when I was at UM with him, and not just in Dallas, everybody thinks you had 4-year scholarships. Every year was renewable. You had to go and talk to the man. He would sit down with you and go, you're part of it. I want you here. You're going to be a star. That's what he would tell. You had a meeting every year with him. And if it didn't go well, he took your scholarship away. You didn't have 4-year rides at Miami. You fucking had to go see the man every year. Those meetings were scary. And knock on the door. There's Jimmy behind his desk. And he's sitting there and he'll look at you and go, hey, I really love what you're doing. I'm going to nominate you for the Outland Trophy. He goes, what'd you think I was going to do? I go, Coach, I don't know. There's so many good players back then. You never knew what your job status was. That's why we were so fucking great. Kennedy and Maryland behind me and Sapp on the coming up. You didn't know what your job status was. Just because you were good didn't mean he kept you. I mean, that guy was looking to upgrade every position. Shit, Xander was telling a story that John said about Emmitt Smith and a running back falling asleep. You know what, Jimmy? I'll finish the story for you because I was there for it. Emmitt Smith, a guy falls asleep, a running back in a team meeting room. Jimmy fired him. Someone said, what if Emmitt Smith did? He goes, have someone wake him up. That's how that worked. Hey, I tell people this all the time. That guy you see on TV or saw on TV, that ain't the same guy I played for. I mean, that was not the same guy. That guy was gas pedal down. And if you didn't play well for him, and it didn't matter where you were drafted. You know, I see somebody in here. You know, Vic is a little like that. Yeah, that's probably why I could play for him. I like that mentality. You know why? It tells a 5th rounder, 4th rounder, free agent. Think of this for a minute. Zach Bond was an Eagle drafted player, right? Who was a free agent versus a guy who was the 5th pick in the draft and Devin White. Everyone would assume that White was the better player, more acclaimed. He was. Won a Super Bowl, was a co-captain on that Bucs team, had 9 sacks. You know what Vic said? Fuck that. I don't give a shit what your resume says. Play the best guy. Guy I feel is the best player that's going to fill the role I need. You want to play for that all night. That means everyone's evaluated fairly. It's not by draft status. It's being evaluated fairly. That's the greatest organization and the greatest place you can want to play for. Because you know why? You've got a coach that's not going to sugarcoat anything, and you know where you stand. All players ever ask is don't bullshit me and let me know where I stand. You don't want having coaches or organizations telling you one thing, then you wake up and you're out the door and you don't know why. Well, especially when you don't know how you do business. I love that playing for him. Didn't matter where you were drafted. Didn't matter what your accolades were coming out of high school. I told you, Russell, Maryland had 1 scholarship offer. University of Toledo. How ironic. Where Q came from. That's the only place he had a scholarship offer. Only place. He became the first pick in the draft. That's how you build a championship culture. That's how you build a championship defense and roster. It's how it works. Mark Schlerer's going to join us bottom of the hour here. Looky here. I love this. Look at the Eagles next year. Look at the draft picks next year. A 1, a 2, 3 threes, 3 4s, 5, 6, 7. You know, I want to reiterate that one more time to you. One of the greatest things I'm playing for Coach Jimmy Johnson. Give a shit. The next guest coming up here, Stank, is the greatest example of this. There was another guy who played in Denver. His name was Carl Mecklenburg, who's a friend of mine. I think Carl Mecklenburg was a 12th round pick. Stink was a late pick in the draft. Do you know how many chances a guy like him to make a roster and go on and have the career he had. You know, like Gary Cobb comes on every week. These 10-plus year guys are the 1% of the 1%ers. You have a better chance of being a freaking astronaut than playing 10 years in the league, let alone win 3 Super Bowls. Stink's a bag holder. He goes on to be one of the best guards in the league. You know why? There had to have been a culture in the building like Jimmy had. Jimmy had the totem pole culture. Where are you on the totem pole? If you're down here, I don't give a shit about you. Prove to me you have to stay here. You see Emmett and all those guys up there? Well, I'm not going to mess with those guys. I'm looking to replace the bottom 5 of my roster, not the top 5. And that's kind of where Howie is now. Hey, you see all these little sub moves? He's looking to build out the bottom 5% of his roster. He's not going to touch the future at the top. That's the price of being a champion. Let's bring in our friend from Fox Sports now, Mark Schlereth, then get his thoughts on what he sees here. I mean, Mark, right? I mean, certain places have certain cultures. When you get into building, it's not where you're drafted. It's where you're drafted to and what you do when you're drafted. I mean, do you think that's changed today, or do you think there's more pressure on that? Like, could a guy like you being a later round pick, do you think you could have the chance to play in the league today? Or do you think there's more of a lack of patience in today's NFL to develop the players, especially at your position with the limited amount of practice time you had? Do you think you could have still got that same chance?
It's an interesting question. Do I think I would have worked to get an opportunity? Absolutely. I know I would have. But the bottom line is development. And I was fortunate in that I played at the University of Idaho, even though it was a small school, but we were a 3-wide space team. We were a single back team. So for us, that's like we played more of an NFL style. And one of the things that Alex Gibbs, was my offensive line coach in Denver for 6 years, used to say all the time, man, I don't have time to teach you how to pass protect in this league. I only have time. I can teach you how to run block, maybe stalemate, but I don't have time to teach you how to pass pro. So I came in as an efficient pass pro guy. But ultimately, in today's NFL, especially in college, I just don't know how much work we do at that position. And I say this all the time, Dan. I'm like, listen, like, we are collectively the worst athletes on the football field as a whole, right? And name me one other sport where a lesser athlete is lined up against a better athlete, same size, same weight, same strength, all that kind of stuff. But the lesser athlete is expected to win 100% of those battles. And if the lesser athlete gives up 1 or 2 sacks, right, he's a piece of crap, and the defensive lineman goes to the Pro Bowl. And so, like, it's a really interesting kind of dynamic. And so I always tell people the greatest skilled position in football is that of the offensive line, because it's the only position in sports where that is true. Like if a 6'3" point guard blows by a 7-foot center who's a little bit slow-footed, we don't say, hey, that 7-foot center can't play. Let's get him out. Let's cut him. Let's get rid of him. No, you say, hey, man, great move. They got a good switch. They blew by the dude. And you know what? We can't expect a 7-foot center to keep up with the 6'3" point guard. But that's not the case when it comes to football. So it's a really interesting dynamic. The other thing about that position is we're only as good as all 5 of us together. And so, you know, like, I can't be good unless all 5 of us are good, because we have to rely on one another. We have to be able to communicate, and we have to be able to work in combination with one another. So it's a very unique position. And today's game is really hard. Not to ramble on, but I'm calling a game in Detroit not last year, but the year before. And Roger Goodell happens to be at the game. And he says, hey, Stink, listen, man, we've got so many quarterback injuries. What are we going to do? Like, what would you do? What are we going to do about keeping our quarterbacks healthy? And I said to him, I got an idea. How about we put on pads and we actually practice? I go, you take the hardest position in football, the most skilled position in football, and say, guys, we're not going to practice and develop, but we want you to protect our, $250 million quarterbacks. Like, do you understand how insane this is? that you're going to take all the skill and the practice out of developing that skill, and yet you're going to ask us to keep these quarterbacks healthy. I just think it's insanely stupid the way we operate as a league in general.
Stink, you mentioned Alex Gibb, and that blocking style, in my opinion, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest offensive line coach. You got Skarnacki in New England. You could probably say McKittrick with the 49ers during our time. Jeff Stoutland, you tell me if all these guys have one thing in common here. I heard something, and Clint Hurt, who's a friend of mine, went to University of Miami. He said, you know what he does in practice that is essential that I don't think a lot of teams do? The first team guy and the third team guy, Stink, they get the same amount of reps during the week as the first team guy does. So when you have an injury to Landon Dickerson or Melodic gets banged up, you put Fred Johnson in, you put another guy. There's a reason you're first and second team guys, but you're mentally in the game. You're prepared for the game plan. You know, instead of just sitting on the sidelines here, sucking on ice. And Stoutland teaches everybody, and it's player development and it's preparation all in the same time. Is that some of the characteristics some of the great old linemen have? Is that they're coaching the top guy as well as they're coaching the guys on the roster like they are the starters. I mean, it's really, I don't think a lot of places do that.
No, I think you're probably right. And I think Stoutland is amazing. Every time I call a Philly game, I go watch him work with the guys who aren't going to play, and even warming up with some of the guys that are playing. And it's always just top notch, right? The work that's getting done, the attention to detail. The other thing you watch is just the technical kind of the understanding and the nuance of the game, the technicalities of the game, the footwork, the steps, how to create leverage. You know, everybody thinks in today's game, they're all like I got this question, on social media the other day. Oh, you were only 285, 290 pounds when you played. Would you have to gain, 30 pounds to play in today's game? Would you? And I'm like, you realize what bullshit that is, right? Like you can either create leverage or you can't create leverage. Leverage is created from the ground up, right? Ankle in line with knee, in line with hip, right? And coming off the ground with both feet in the ground, and having it like I always say, foot over ankle, ankle over knee, knee over hip, right? And all lined up, and you're striking from a low to high plane, and you're creating this upward movement, right? This leverage movement. And it's always funny to me because you'll hear offensive linemen or you feel offensive line coaches say, hey, we got to stay lower. And I was always like, during that time, I was like, no shit, right? Like, I'm getting impaled. Of course I need to stay lower, right? How do you stay lower? Well, being lower is you're never, like, if you and I are going one-on-ones, right? One-on-one run block, and you're playing D tackle and I'm playing guard, we're going to hit helmets. And it's the guy that can create that upward movement on the other guy. That's the guy that wins that battle. And that's through 100% of that is through technique. So it doesn't matter. Like, I played against a bunch of 350-pound, 400-pound guys. I could take them off the ball. Why? Because I had exceptional technique and I always had exceptional strength. So 285, 290, 340, it doesn't matter to me. It's completely irrelevant as long as you have great technique. And great technique comes through reps. Great technique comes from understanding. Great technique comes from working on it. And one of the things that I see with Stoutland is that ability. The other thing I see in that is the nuance of understanding. And that's where you go from being coached to being a great player. And that's where veteran players come in. That's where a Kelsey can take all that he knows over the years, and Stoutland can say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then a guy like Jurgens can go, well, you know what, and Kelsey goes, let me give you a little nuance to that. Let me show you how that works, right? And that's the beauty of it. I came into the Hogs, and I'm getting coached up not only by Joe Bugle, who's one of the great offensive line coaches in football, and then after that, it was Jim Hannafin. But I'm getting coached up by Russ Grimm. I'm getting coached up by Jeff Bostic. I'm getting coached up, by Joe Jacoby. I'm getting coached up by some of the best to ever do it. And they're taking those X's and O's and and the conversation and the techniques, and they're saying, you know what, think about this like this, or think about this, or you might want to take this step. And the little nuance stuff is what makes you great. So it's that combination and that mixture of veteran players that really understand it, have done it, and have gone through the battles that can give you that nuance as a young player. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, I can see it now. And you can take that and make it your own. And that's when you're great. And that's why Stoutland, like, guys come up, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what 57's number or name is, but I watch 57 come in and play left guard. And I'm going, damn, that guy could start everywhere else in the league because his technique is so freaking good, and you're just watching it going, damn, this is really something.
How about this thing? You tell me. Every single guy in that old line is big money. Both tackles are over $25 million. The left guard, Dickerson's a $20 million guy.
Mm-hmm.
Center is a Pro Bowl type guy. The last 3 years, they've had Isaac Seumalo. The following year, they had Juergens move over because Kelsey was still there. And then they move Micaiah Becton over there from tackle to guard. He had a really good football season. You tell me, is that an interchangeable piece and one of the interchangeable positions on that team and that offensive line spot? Because they've had 3 different guys at that position. As a matter of fact, they've had 3 different running backs, Barkley, DeAndre Swift, and Miles Sanders. Now they're probably obviously settled in on Barkley here, but I mean, how important do you think it is for them to re-sign Mekhi Becton, or is it because they've had interchangeable pieces there at that right guard spot?
Yeah, they've done a really good job. And obviously, like you said, they're all getting coached. They're all getting reps. They're all getting prepared. And when one guy gets hurt and another guy comes in, they don't miss a step. For Mekhi Becton, I will say this. Much easier to move from outside to inside, from tackle to guard, than it is to go the opposite way. And, it was funny. Years ago, you remember Leonard Davis, who got drafted in the first round by Arizona?
Yep.
I'll never forget. I met at this event, Super Bowl event, and I had given him a pretty hard time as a television analyst, in his time for Arizona. And he's every bit of 6'8", 365 or something, right? I mean, this guy's a huge dude. And I'm sitting at this event, and all of a sudden, I catch eyes with him, and he kind of puts his plate down and comes storming across the room. And I'm like, man, I might get my ass kicked right now. I was like, here we go.
You might have to turn the ankle and let's get it on here, right?
Right. And so anyway, he walks up to me and goes, all right. He goes, you've been critical. And he goes, I get it. He goes, what should I do? And I said, hey, listen, if I'm you, and he was a free agent at the time, I said, if I'm you, whoever is courting me, I would tell them, I'm not a tackle in this league. I go, you don't move well enough. You don't have quick enough feet. No offense, but you just don't. To play tackle in this league against the guys that can rush the edge, I go, move inside. You'll be a Pro Bowl player. Just say to your agent, say, I am not playing tackle anymore. I'm going to move in and play guard. That guy went to 4 straight Pro Bowls for the Dallas Cowboys at inside. And I'm not saying that I had anything to do with that. He had to do the work and everything. But I was just like, dude, this is just the way it is.
It is.
And you got to understand, like, the dudes that play tackle in this league, and you guys see it all the time, Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson is one of the most phenomenal athletes you will ever come across. I mean, the dude is strong. He is unbelievably athletic. His movement skills are second to none. And Malata is got unbelievable movement skills. Not to the level that Lane Johnson does, but he's got great movement skills as well. And he's a mountain of a human being. But the bottom line is the footwork, the athleticism, the change of direction, the things that you have to do out there in space. We always used to call that being out in the water.
Yep.
Like the guard, center guard, that's in the concrete, right? That's it. Yep. But those guys out there are treading water out there. I don't want any part of that, man. There's no way I could have moved from inside to out. It would have been an impossibility for me. So a lot of times when you get a tackle that doesn't quite have the foot quickness, that doesn't quite have the athleticism or change of direction, you can slide that guy into guard, and that guy can be a good player. And Mekhi Becton was a beast inside this year. A lot of fun to watch, and I'm really happy that he had that success.
Stink, help me out on Hurts. When you have a conversation about him, do you see Joe Burrow? Do you see Josh Allen? Do you see Patrick Mahomes? I don't yet. Here's a guy, 2 NFC championship rings, a Super Bowl, massive winning. Is he a prototypical guy? No, but I call him like the unicorn. He's kind of like unique in what he brings. He can run. I don't believe Saquon Barkley has 2,000 rushing yards if he's not in the huddle because of the threat he gives on going out that backside. You've got to stay. You've got to stay with your technique and get as deep as the ball because Hurts could take it backside on you and go up 30 yards. People don't realize what that guy gives to the run game. I mean, how do you see Jalen Hurts? I mean, is he a top 5 guy in your eyes? Is he an elite guy? He's an elite winner for sure, but give me your take on him.
Right. I will always, and it changes over time, but, if I feel like and I've done enough Eagles games and talked to enough coordinators that feel the same way. Hey man, when we're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, it's about shutting down the run and trying to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket. Like if he beats us from the pocket, we tip our cap to him and say, damn good job. But we feel like that's our best opportunity to win. But he's unique in his skill set to, like you said, to press the edge, to run the RPO game, to run the zone read game. And what ends up happening to that, because he is that threat to pull the ball and carry it on the outside, you don't get constriction, not only from the defensive end on that side of the football field, but the outside linebacker, maybe it's the nickel guy that's running the alley, or the safety. They tend to have to hold their point, right? And so the cutback lane becomes prominent for Saquon Barkley. And we know this about Saquon. One, unbelievable vision, right? Unreal vision.
Unreal.
And his ability to make people miss in a tight space. And then, he's unique in that he can make you miss in an unbelievable spot. He's got enough power to run through you, but make you miss in tight quarters. And as soon as he turns, man, he's gone. Like there's nobody on the field that's going to catch him. And so he's a unique component to that. But I think if anything, I think what you've seen with Jalen Hurts is they go to the Super Bowl, right? Running the style with which they played last year, a lot of, some RPO stuff, some zone read stuff, certainly a nice combination of drop back involved in that. And then I thought what they tried to do is try to take some of that away because of the injury issues and some of the owies and all that stuff. And he is just not as efficient. When you take that weapon away, it's kind of like Lamar. When you take those weapons away from Lamar, that ability to run, that ability to scramble, that ability to do those extra things that you have to be aware of as a defense, his ability to beat you from the pocket diminishes a little bit. He can beat you from the pocket as long as everything else, I think, is part of your game plan. And so you just have to be willing to play a style with which you say, hey, listen, we're going to run you. We're going to do some of these other things. We're going to need you when you get outside the pocket, when you do scramble, or it is a design run, to be judicious with your own body and make sure you don't take a hit, right? And so you talk to a guy like John Harbaugh, or you talk to back in the day, in Chicago when Fields was there, they'll tell you we tend to take bigger hits in the pocket than we do outside the pocket because outside the pocket you've got vision and you can get down. It's the problem is your natural, what you've always done, relying on that athletic ability. Sometimes instinctually that takes over and you put yourself in harm's way. So as you take over as a scrambling quarterback or as a guy that's on a design run, at some point you have to be able to go, okay, wait a minute. I am this great athlete. I've always been able to do this, but for the good of the team, I got to make sure I don't take a hit. And I think your competitiveness and the instinct, because you've always done it, that's what gets the best of quarterbacks at times that are really gifted athletically. And I think Jalen's one of those guys that's smart enough and has enough understanding and enough respect for the coaching staff and the guys on his team to say, this is something I got to do. But I think that's one of those things like anything else. I think you have to kind of learn to do that because you've always been so gifted as an athlete.
Two last ones here for you. There's been huge turnover now with the Eagles here. They've lost 5 starters. They lost Slay, obviously, Sweat, Milton Williams. I mean, did he just moved off of Gardner-Johnson? Brandon Graham's now gone. There's a culture, it seems, that Howie, look at all the draft picks he's got coming up the next couple of years. I guess, Stink, would you say that? I guess this is the price of winning, is when you have a lot of good football players. The salary cap is kind of a rigged system where they're not looking for back-to-back teams like your Bronco team. They're not looking for that since the salary cap era. So, Howie Roseman, to you, I mean, he seems to lease the players on that side of the ball. There's not a lot of money on that side of the ball in any place. The money's all on the offensive style. How do you see him, how he looks at that side of the football and how he looks at his roster? Give me your takeaway on what you think of him as a GM.
Well, I think he's phenomenal. And I think one of the things that happens to you oftentimes, when you miss on a draft pick, a lot of NFL teams continue to chase in the draft that position. And what ends up happening to you is when you're chasing a position and you're trying to fix it through the draft, what happens is you start neglecting the positions of strength. And you don't build back up, right? And so then all of a sudden you keep missing on receiver, for instance, like, hey, when they missed on Rager, right? And Rager couldn't play. What did he do? Well, he went out and got AJ Brown. Let's fix it. Okay. Then they were able to draft Devontae Smith, right? But why he wasn't chasing draft picks there. He was still building second rounder with Cam Jurgens. He was still building an offensive line at the same time. When they had Fletcher Cox and they had Brandon Graham and they had a really good defensive line. What do they invest in? Other defensive linemen, right? And so they kept their positions of strength. They were able to do that. And that'll happen to you when the other thing that'll happen is when you hit in the draft and you go out, you get you get a couple of corners in the draft that can really play. Like the Mitchell kid was phenomenal.
He was. Cooper DeJean.
DeJean was incredible. So you hit on these players, and what the draft really does for you more than anything else, in my mind, is it gives you some salary certainty for the next 3 or 4 years, right? To where you can go, okay, I want to cherry pick a guy to fit this hole, right? I got to have that wide receiver, or I got to have that tight end, or whatever it is. But Howie's done a phenomenal job. And the other thing he's done a phenomenal job of being the anti-Cowboys. So when I don't understand, beyond the shadow of a doubt when a guy can play, right? I mean, as a player, man, most of us could find a guy within the first
two practices
and go, that dude can play, that dude can play, that dude can play, that guy can't, that guy can't, that guy can't. And you're just like, it's just the way it is. I remember late in my career, I was probably in year 11 or 12, sitting in a pair of shorts, big fat belly hanging over my shorts. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching this kid they brought in, and this kid is a muscle pig, right? I mean, he's just yoked. Yeah. He plays defensive line. He's a little short, like 6'1", and just like 6-pack. And I am like impressed. I'm like eyeballing him, like, oh my God, this guy. And he looks at me and he said, from across the locker room, what are you looking at? And I say, hey, listen, no offense. I go, I played in this league for a long time. And my experience would tell me you got way too many muscles to be any good at playing football. Yeah. And he was
sounds like the kid from Arkansas, but go ahead.
Right. He was so offended. He was so upset. 2 days later, they cut him. The guy couldn't play dead in the Western. And, and so you could pick out the dudes that can play like in a heartbeat. And when you find the guys that can play, get them done early. Go get them. Reward them. Show everybody on the team we'll reward this guy, right? Pay that dude. Set the market early, because 2 years from now, he's going to be a bargain. And they've done that. Like, they've gone out and go, hey, man, Lane Johnson can play. How many contracts do we need to give him? As many as he needs, right? Hey, Mailata can play. Let's get him Dickerson. Wow, let's get him done early. on and on it goes. And when you take care of those guys that are the culture, that are the guys who set the tone for your football team, to me, good things are going to happen. You can't keep everybody. Like Milton Williams was a guy that I watched a bunch of film on coming into free agency, and we were doing a thing, and because I still do some Denver radio, and we were doing the thing like, who are your top free agents? My top free agent was Milton Williams. I would love to have that guy in the Broncos. I would love, because man, you talk about first off the ball, first snap count, jumping snap counts. He's great, plays with leverage, and he's got some pass rush ability, right? Plays with I looked at him inside, go, boy, that dude, for me, if that guy was a 3.
What I liked about him was you could play him in a 7-5-3 and a 0, and the versatility he had. He
100%.
Was good at all of those.
Right, 100%. And then I thought he set himself apart as a 3 technique pass rusher, like in the nickel stuff. That's where he exploded. And I don't know how many sacks he had, but he was always on somebody's edge, like right now, and forced the quarterback to move in the pocket. And I don't know how many it equated to, but when you start getting a guy that has to move and he's uncomfortable, that leads to incompletions, that leads to tip ball interceptions, that leads to a bunch of things, right, that maybe don't necessarily come up on the stat. He may not even get credited with the pressure, but he made a guy move into somebody else, and it creates a hesitation. It allows a DB to break on a ball. It's the little things like that I watch on film and go, boy, I really like the way that guy gets off the snap, and I like the way he pass rushes. But you're right. He played D end, and like you said, he could play the 5, he can play the 7, he can play the 3, he can play, 2-eye or 1. Like, he can do all those things.
Finally here, the Eagles are turning the offense over to Kevin Petula, who's never called a play. Even though he's been in the building, 2 years previous, they did that with Brian Johnson. Been in the building, friends with Jalen, had never called a play. How significant or not significant do you think that is for a guy who's never been a play caller and had the main headset on? He takes over for Kellen Moore, who actually changed his way and his approach from being a guy who was a Dak-type offense to where you just sat back in the pocket and won, to running the ball, which I thought was a brilliant year for him because it showed the chameleon of a coordinator he could be. I mean, and here's a guy, they're going to do it again, never play caller. Do you think it's significant or not significant?
I think it's significant, and I don't think you ever really know until you know. And I think there's a lot of guys in this league, a lot of offensive guys, whether they're receiver coaches or run game coordinators or pass game coordinators, that could call plays. I always say there's a difference between calling plays and calling an offense. And anybody can call plays, and you can have a couple of games that it works out really well. Like, everything you call just works, right? And our guys match up well. You always had those matchups when you were playing. Like, it may not have made sense, but our scheme and personnel just matches up really well with your scheme and personnel. And we just run like run through you like you crap through a goose. And then there's those ones that, for no real apparent reason, their scheme and their personnel just match up, and it's a really hard day for you. It works out that way. So there are some times where you're a play caller and you call plays and it just works, right? Like everything. But to me, it's the guys who call an offense, guys who will call a crappy run and they'll call it 5 times and it'll net 2 yards per carry. But there's a principle or a purpose behind it. Is because they've got 3 identical looking play action plays off of that one crappy run that nets them 3 explosive 20-yard gains and a touchdown, right? And so the guys that understand, like, hey, I'm going to call this play, we're going to figure out what you guys are like, what your adjustments are to it, and then we've got the adjunct play to get an explosive out of that. And so you start breaking it down that way, because it was, this is years ago, talking to a defensive coordinator in the league who said, listen, this is what explosive plays are worth. And an explosive in any drive is the equivalent of about 3 points. To score touchdowns, you've got to put a drive together, 8 to 10 to 12 plays is really hard to do in this league, right? And so to get an explosive, a 12-yard run. It depends on who's defining it, right? But let's just call it a 20-yard passing play. You almost got to have a 20-yard pass play or an explosive play in a drive to score touchdowns. So an explosive play is worth on average about 3 points. And so you got to put an explosive play or two in a drive to have a scoring drive come together, whether it's a field goal or whether it's a touchdown. And if you don't, like, your odds of scoring without an explosive in a drive, it drops down to, I can't remember what the percentage was, but it's like 15% of the drives without an explosive end up scoring. It's not very many, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, so you got to have a dude that says, okay, we got these 4 plays. How do they react to these 4 plays? How do they react to these formations? You're almost fishing for information, and you're cataloging that information, and you're coming back to that play, and you're setting that up. And next time we're on the plus 40, we're going to get this. We're going to show them this. We've run it 4 times. Now's the time. And to know when to call it, right? To know when to go attack it. Those are the guys that call an offense as opposed to calling plays. You can have success once or twice or 3 times during a season if you're just a play caller, but to have continued success and have, like Kellen Moore did last year, have game after game after game, you got to have great players, no question about it, but you have to know what you're doing. And I'll go back to the Super Bowl. Like, Saquon Barkley's averaging 3 yards a carry or whatever the hell it is, 25, 26 carries.
Yep.
Like that's what leads to those explosive plays over the top to I think Dotson had an explosive.
Yep.
I know AJ Brown had an explosive. Devontae Smith had an explosive. Like, that's how you hang 40 on people. And I just, like, your guess is as good as mine. He may be great, and he may just be one of those guys that you're like, ugh, at the end of the year, this didn't really work out. You just never know until the guy does it.
Absolutely. Stink. Masterclass here, man. I really appreciate your time, brother. Thank you so much, man. I know you enjoy yourself there, and I hear a lot of people talking about your show there in Denver, man. I can't thank you enough for always finding time for me. Every time I ask, you always do it. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
You got it, Dan. We'll take care, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it. That is Mark Schlereth. I so appreciate him doing that. Guys, I got to pay a little bit of bills here before we get out of here. Don't forget our friends at BetUS. Our friends at BetUS, we've teamed up with them. It's been an absolutely great time, especially with the NCAA tournament coming around and our YouTube 150. Don't forget, you have great tournament action coming up. You have 150% sign-up bonuses up to $2K. Second and third are 125%. That's betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Fastest payouts in the business. Absolutely 24/7 personalized service. 365 days of the year. That's betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Thank you guys very much. What an absolutely sensational day. Great stuff. A lot of drama going on here with the Eagles, especially around the league. Thank you, Big Joe. Xander, absolutely awesome. Stay in touch here with what's going on here with Birds 365 in the morning. Also, if there's any other breaking news when it comes to Eagles or NFL football, we got you covered right here on JAKIB. 2 to 6 tomorrow, and we'll see you on the flip side.